concussion. Cold like 0 degrees. I'm out the cage, gotta let out the beast. Revolutionary, gotta let out the streets. Locked in a cage, I'ma let out the sheets. We came for war, man, forget my peace. You take the west, I'll take on the east. I'ma put them in the cage, never let out the. Yeah, I hear him chat to the noise. Move too quick, can't stop for the talking. I hear him chat with the boys. Not so tough, but man's keep walking. Yeah, just too sharp with the prize. Like girls, let her tell me I'm awesome. Yeah, hot like fire on the pan. If you wanna touch me, please use caution. Stop that. Stop that. Stop that.
Obviously, it's still early in the year, but I already have what I will describe as my most embarrassing personal moment of this year.
Wow.
I don't believe there will be another one this year, but give me time. I just walked out of the room. And because we get a lot of stuff sent to us, like DeMar DeRozan socks, I'm very grateful for people are always sending us gifts, very thoughtful gifts, but I don't always know where it is that things come from. So I get in today, and on my desk is the baseball cap I am presently wearing. And I did not recognize it. And so I walked out into the other room. And I just asked, does anybody want this? And I'm standing right next to Izzy. And with a nice comedic pause, Izzy says, that was my Christmas gift to you.
The best part was you didn't just say, what is this? You said, who wants this?
Right.
It was like, not only were you curious about it,
yes.
I need to get this give this away.
And now he's overcompensating by wearing the hat that he was trying to give away before the show. I mean.
Classic guilt hat. How long is that going to stay on?
Yep, and I'll wear it for a month now. I mean.
Looks great on you. Slimming.
Not so much.
No, I'm giving it away because my face is round and I have to have a particular kind of hat, and it's got to be at about 7 5/8. It's got to be fitted, and these things in the back. Like, I don't want to look a Christmas gift in the mouth. But what happened here is this hat. My face is fat. And this hat makes it fatter. And so I can't. Thank you, Mike.
You can adjust it, by the way.
No, your gut is right. You look fat in that.
Not only did I give you a Christmas present, I told you exactly why I got it for you, because it's the Monopoly Man, and you're the Mr. Money Man, and he's got a white mustache, and your mustache is turning white.
You remember that?
I do now.
No, you don't.
I do.
No, you don't.
No, I do, because Izzy's often talking to me when I'm going through an assortment of things. And now I remember it was in here that he brought all of that up. But I was standing, like, if you had a scene in The Office, the camera would have panned to Izzy right next to me as I'm coming out and just saying, does anybody want this?
For a split second, I was considering just saying, I'll take it, because I have the receipt at home.
I love the gift with a story. It makes it more special, even to Dan.
And then Taylor did the Jim face to the hard cam. I've never, this is like throwing me, because never has the term, like, do I look fat in this, ever in my mind applied to a hat. It's always like pants or a shirt, but it has totally made you look like 20 pounds heavier. A single hat.
I have to be careful with the hats that I wear. I've told you before that Barkley makes the very good joke that when I say some version of, television adds 10 pounds, how many televisions did you eat?
Now I just feel bad because I said yesterday, I was like, wow, holidays are treating Dan really well, and now I got you a hat that makes you look fat.
Yeah.
It was a gift. I mean,
it isn't really what I want to look fatter. Like, that's not gift giving. But look, there are any number of things.
Though.
This time of year, it was
Remember
that
the story.
Yeah, he saw a white mustache, and he's like, oh, this will make Dan feel great.
The number of things that I have gotten recently that during the holidays that I can be confused by is pretty long. And one of them, you guys tell me if this has happened for you. I have gotten via text an assortment of family holiday cards where people are sending you that picture they take with the kids and the dog and they wish you a happy holidays. And I thought to myself every time I got one, this is the laziest way this could be done. This needs a stamp. Like, this is not an act of thoughtfulness unless it has a stamp on it.
You're right. I get one every year from Mike Ryan and his beautiful family.
The
and
physical
it comes in,
card.
Yes, a physical card that comes in the mail, envelope, stamped. It's beautiful. It's great. You're right, Dan. They're mailing it in. They are.
But
that is
not-
the
but they're
laziest.
not. They're not.
But they're not. Right. But they should be mailing it in.
But that's
Yes.
at least a card they went out and took a picture. Wouldn't it be lazier to just say Merry Christmas?
No,
Like,
I don't
just
think
a
so.
text Merry Christmas.
No,
Like,
because then you have to individually text everybody. I'm
I
sure
hate
this
those,
system, you can just kind of put it all in at once, and then it'll mass text that out to everybody, as opposed to an individual Merry Christmas
It's
text.
unfortunate because there is thought that goes into it, but it feels somehow more thoughtless than not receiving a happy holiday card whatsoever.
I disagree on a number of counts. I disagree. I think Chris Cody is right when he says the laziest thing is to send someone a Merry Christmas text. But this is the laziest way to upscale to a card. And I'm saying that the Christmas card requires a stamp, that technology and advancement cannot get so far ahead of us that you're sending me the AI equivalent of a Christmas card that at some point you're not even going to have to do anything
Right.
in order for me to get it.
It's funny how that cliche doesn't work anymore. I think mailing it in now is harder than texting it in is
Much
easy.
harder. Yes.
Wow,
Yes.
you've opened my eyes
A
to
new
something,
phrase.
sweetheart.
it should be scanning it in.
It is more expensive. Do any of you know what a stamp costs these days? Because
I
sometimes
used to buy the book, so like individually, I think
Right.
it comes down to a couple, like 60-something cents. I don't know.
Buy in bulk.
Whenever I need a stamp, I go to my parents. Mom and Dad need a stamp.
He's got
Your
stamps
dad
for
always has
days.
a stamp.
Never bought a stamp in my life.
I
have no idea.
Can't imagine how toxic the chemicals are on those stamps.
Stamps
That's
cost
like,
money?
prior to any kind of regulation, those stamps.
it is actually, if you think about it, if you just consider it for a moment, one of the great values in the history of America is the fact that you could send something like that far away for cents, for pennies. It is. Put it on the poll, please, Juju, at Le Batard Show. Is the stamp one of the great values in the history of America?
But Mike is right about the stamp. That is a class action lawsuit written all over it. Years from now, people are going to say, "Oh man, I got cancer from licking the stamps."
Here's a forever chemical here in your stamp. Here's this lead stamp.
It's such a good bargain that people will just put a second one on there just in case this paper's too heavy.
Well, no, you don't want it sent back to you. Like, you got to put the second one on in the event. Yes, you're right.
I mean, you are living a wealthy life if you can splurge on this. Sometimes I Google it. I'm like, what is the weight? Sometimes I get the lesson taught to me. It gets sent back, and that's why mailing it in no longer applies because you got to work to mail something in now.
I would like for you guys to help me find all of the things that are like this, where the generation gap is so. Cash is obviously like this. I've learned this much to my bitter dismay while railing against America over the fact that people will not take my cash.
All you have is cash and stamps, right?
That is, I imagine that is what is in the Greg. I would love to look through the Greg Cody drawer that Chris Cody goes to when he goes looking for the stamp. It is, by the way, the least adult thing that you do, and it's a long list of things that you do that are not quite adulthood, going to your parents' house when you need a stamp.
I've done it one time, I think. I don't need to, I can send an email.
Wait, has this cliche evolved with the times and then we just forgot, this generation forgot to evolve it? Because mailing it in, and there's also phoning it in.
Yeah.
And I assume phoning it in came after mailing it in. Why haven't we come to the table with texting it in?
You're right.
It's too early in the game yet. Things are evolving. We will get to that at some point in the future. I want you guys to get me a list, though, of some of these things where I am perpetually shocked. Tony, Jessica, Jeremy, when there is something I am talking about and they have no idea what it is that it is, and I thought it was just a common knowledge thing.
Have you ever sent a fax, Jeremy?
Never in my life.
Never.
I mean, I remember fax machines.
Do you remember like the wax paper that came in a roll?
What is that?
You used to fax them on these like waxy rolls of paper, and it was impossible to draw on with crayons.
I don't really understand what that even could possibly mean, because I've realized I don't really know what a fax machine does.
Okay, very good. Jeremy is a little tired today. The Heat lose in double overtime yesterday. The stuff going on around the Heat doesn't have any precedent, Stugotz. It is amazing to watch the Miami Heat suffer what it is they've done to everybody in acquiring the best talent that they've acquired over the last 15 years. It goes back to when it is that I watched Goran Dragic do this to the Suns, and I'm like, somebody had to tell that guy who's a koala bear how to do that. Like, that is not his instinct to go out there and say, hey, Suns management, get out of here. And that's where some of that stuff started. And now the Miami Heat is a victim of having a guy whose trade value diminishes by the day because
well, they're not a victim. I mean, they didn't get Jimmy Butler the help that Jimmy Butler asked for. I mean,
they got Jimmy Butler a lot.
Jay Crowder, as Jeremy pointed out.
Right. I mean,
they look, you guys can do this, but I think the part that's unfair is you got the best Jimmy Butler that there's been. And that was at least in part because everything that was built around him. It was built to make sure that he was the one with the usage rate and Bam was the all-star doing the dirty things. And Tyler, you sit over there for a while.
But was that the intention or was that a byproduct of failing to get somebody better than Jimmy? Because that was always hanging over this franchise as soon as they acquired Jimmy, is he can't be your number one. And then he almost proved us wrong numerous times. Like, he can be your number one, just not on a title team. But I think ever since his acquisition, we were all saying they got to pair him with somebody that's a little bit more talented.
You can question Pat Riley and the Heat about a number of things and how they've handled Jimmy Butler and surrounding him with the right amount of talent, but they have gotten the best Jimmy Butler. No one has gotten a better Jimmy Butler. Not a single other organization has gotten this Jimmy Butler.
They've maximized him.
Yes.
They've used him in his most effective way, both offensively and defensively. They built offensive and defensive game plans around him. They let him be the guy, which for the majority of his career was part of the issue. He is such an alpha. He wants to be the man. That, for that matter, was the complaint that he had about the present offense and why he kind of went after Spo in that last presser before being suspended. He has always wanted to be the guy, and they were a Bam Adebayo and Goran Dragic injury away from winning an NBA Finals in his very first year. So they have
possibly winning.
They have competing in a more legitimate way.
Allen.
They lost by They lost in 6 to the Lakers without their healthy number 2 and 3 players. And when you look at maximizing it, this guy went to 3 conference finals and 2 NBA finals with this franchise while not doing anything near that otherwise. So when you say they didn't build the right things around him, they didn't give him enough help, they had as much success in 5 years as almost anyone in the league.
Anyone have an address book still?
Yeah,
Rolodex? A Rolodex?
In your phone. Everything's in your phone.
Your dad has a Rolodex, does he not? Your dad has a Rolodex.
Do you know what a Rolodex is, Jeremy?
I only do because my mom still has a Rolodex,
classic.
handwritten, and that's the place where she keeps all of the passwords to the different streaming sites that she has. So every time I need to use her streaming password, she's rolling through that.
Are they very sophisticated? Or
No.
It's like password 123.
Yeah, pretty much.
123.
It's like all the same password,
Amazon
just like one has an
123.
exclamation point and one has a different number. Oh yeah, that's honestly, if you're trying to hack my parents' accounts, my name and some number, and you're probably good.
Your name, your birthday.
Probably.
All right, so some things that have happened here that I think are interesting are the following, because I understand that the job of Pat Riley is to anticipate what the future looks like. But I do think we are all allowed to be surprised by a couple of things here, one of which is how much the game has changed. Okay? I don't know that we all could have anticipated that, given that Pat Riley spent the majority of his career throwing the ball to Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Patrick Ewing, Alonzo Mourning in the post, and taking the contested least valuable shot in the sport, also more most inefficient. Like, that's how we were playing football, just
Yes.
like we were playing football once upon a time by just running the ball all the time.
Right.
Some things changed here that I understand where it is that the Miami Heat fall behind to how Boston is presently playing.
But the Heat have rolled with those changes. I mean, they've put together rosters recently that have won NBA championships.
Agreed, but since they were even with Boston at the rim in the bubble, what has happened since then is the sport has changed enough that the Celtics are great at threes and crush everybody at threes because they got 5 guys and a 7-3 guy who can do things Bam cannot do because he does not have the range that Chris Bosh might have developed over his career. So understood on the criticism. I'm just telling you, okay, that can be one that's hard to see. The next step on this, though, when you look at, yes, they missed on Damian Lillard, they missed on Kevin Durant, they missed on DeRozan. They haven't gotten any of the players that they needed to allow Jimmy Butler to age with grace by having him become the second best player on the team. But the thing that I think you can forgive the Heat for not seeing is that I always thought Jimmy Butler was supposed to be the help, not need the help. Like, I always thought that he's Philadelphia's third guy. Like, that's what you need him to be if you want to beat Boston. And so I understand where it is. If your leadership there, you get caught off guard and you hesitate on Bradley Beal because you don't think he's worth the $50 million, because he's not. And everyone wants the pressure of, you got to make a move. You got to get Jimmy Moore. And you're not wrong to do that. You're especially not wrong because of how Boston did it and got rewarded for doing it, because they made the moves, and the Heat fan is sitting here still hurting from Kyle Lowry as the move.
No doubt. The Kyle Lowry thing, I don't think we pay enough attention to that, even with time. That was just such a disastrous move for this franchise. I think it's fair, like, if you want to armchair quarterback it and say they've actually been on the right side of not acquiring some of these talents. It actually ended up working out. The Damian Lillard contract's not that attractive, even though I still think that it would have been a better fit here. I think people tend to look over their multiple pursuits of Kevin Durant. A new owner waltzes into the league and just alphas them, and they've always been trying to get him, and that would have been huge. Chris Paul, that one is kind of debatable. Kyrie Irving, in retrospect, we understand why everybody was standoffish, but they should have pursued him. So,
whoa, that's easy to say now.
Yes.
God, nobody wanted it. That's so easy to say now.
110%, but I also think it's awfully convenient when people bring up Bradley Beal and they bring up, Damian Lillard. They omit the other ones where, like, taking this chance might have worked out there. Putting all that other stuff to his side. And just for a guy who coined the phrase disease of me, he couldn't get this wrong with Jimmy. Because Jimmy, at the very least, he helps you compete this year, and it's a contract that comes off the books. We understand he took his approach in the summer. It was dicey. Jimmy Butler and him started doing some posturing publicly, and it looked like they handled that. Then all these trade rumors start up where Shams is totally right. You don't go up against Shams in these situations. And Jimmy Butler's representation and the Miami Heat got cocky, had bravado. I'm not really sure what Jimmy Butler's agent was doing. That seems a little nefarious in retrospect. But the guy that coined the phrase disease of me did something that you don't really see executives do all that much. Put out like an old school press release saying he's not going to move. And in retrospect, he really minimized the possible return for Jimmy Butler by doing that. Because you back a guy who knows how to get out of these situations into a corner, and now every team that's checking in on Jimmy Butler understands you are out of moves and is lowballing you. And that is a byproduct of your initial approach, which was a bit prideful.
I think it's fair to say that that statement ended up backfiring because Jimmy turned it into a total mess from there. And who knows if that was actually the thing that sent it over the line, or if they already knew Jimmy was about to make some sort of mess and were trying to publicly get ahead of that. We don't know behind the scenes specifically
He was already
what comes
making
in
the
one
mess.
order.
He was
exactly.
already the mess has been here for a while.
But there's a difference
But
between.
then he gets suspended for 7 games.
Yeah, there's a difference between kind of dogging it on the court and getting suspended from rumors leaking through the media that you're okay with being traded. There's a difference between that and the press conference that comes after the Indiana Pacers game where he's throwing his coaches, his roster under the bus. That's a different thing.
All right, I want to talk about something because you guys mentioned Spo here. And this season, Spo has blown an 8-point lead in overtime, a 22-point fourth-quarter lead in Orlando. There are a lot of blown leads. There's the timeout at the end of a game when they didn't have a timeout, a decision that will haunt him for the remainder of his days and a few after he's gone.
But we chalk that one up to just the acquisition of Terry Rozier, which is also a stain on Pat Riley's legacy.
That timeout will chase Eric Spoelstra into the beyond. His spirit will be chased by that timeout that was called at the end of a game that he did not have.
What are we doing to poor Pat Riley? I mean, seriously, you guys sound so entitled. The Heat fan base. Get over yourselves and get over it. You're going through a bad season. Since 2006, you have won 3 NBA championships and been to the finals 7 times. 7 times since 2006. Every organization would take that type of run. What are you guys doing?
Are you going at us for questioning whether Pat Riley has failed the town, failed the city, failed the franchise player? Is that what you're doing?
Yes, I am.
Is that what you are doing?
Yes. Yes.
Chris Cody.
He deserves better from you guys.
Chris Cody, please get that sound. And I agree with Stugotz
Thank you.
on this. There were some people yesterday, and this is a tricky one because where do you draw the line in the lack of nuanced debate culture of today of firmly backing someone and also being critical of them? Because it should go without saying, Stugotz, this part should go without saying, that the reason Mike Ryan is accusing Pat Riley a bit prideful, no, it's more than a bit prideful, it's arrogance, and it's earned. Won every single place he's ever been, he's entitled to think he's the reason that happens. Because it was in New York, and it was in Los Angeles, and it was in Miami, and I saw what he inherited when he got to Miami. This was a spring break dump of a basketball franchise playing next to a hospital gym. He left Madison Square Garden in one of the greatest jobs there are in sports, where he was the head of fashion in Los Angeles and New York for creating the model of executive leadership that looks good and is in charge. And he reinvented a nowhere franchise down here. So yeah, he's prideful. He's Belichick. And when you tell Belichick Brady's the reason you're winning, he's like, I made Brady. Who do you think made LeBron? He didn't win shit before he got here. Like, what? That's what you're going to get from, you think he's being a bit prideful? Bleep, yeah, he's being prideful when he's in Vegas and they've got him waiting outside the door of the hotel with his trophies because they're watching the World Cup and he can't get to LeBron James to recruit him. Like, that's losing for 10 years, and he's going to pridefully hold on to that because he got to 70 having all the power and winning for how many years? Like, in what world do you have Pat Riley not being prideful?
He deserves it. And he also deserves to leave this franchise however he wants it. I don't think it's hard to explain that every time you want to criticize something in the moment. We understand what he means to this franchise. We understand why we're here. But in this specific moment, in a vacuum, he has really botched this Jimmy Butler situation in terms of maximizing a return to the point that Jeremy and I are workshopping, like, what's his move now? Just say, hey, we're going to shelve you for the rest of the year because just losing your contract
has no moves, Mike.
off our books
Mike, he got
is
this
more
one
value than acquiring anything else.
He has no moves. He got this one wrong, but for the most part, he's gotten it right.
The Terry Rozier, Kyle Lowry thing.
You do still have a month to kind of materialize all of this, where there might be teams that, whether it's injuries or otherwise, that think that they're close, that acquiring Jimmy Butler as a rental is going to get you what it is that you want. The way that the Heat played this was, we're going to go into the season, and if you decide to opt out at the end of it, then we will just have cap space to be able to maneuver with the roster moving forward, and that's essentially what they're going to try to create in this trade, is acquire expiring contracts and picks more likely than not. They're taking a guy they traded, Hassan Whiteside, Josh Richardson, and a protected first-round pick. They maximized the value, went to 2 finals, went to 3 conference finals, and on the back end, if they get that type of value back in expiring contracts, it was a success.
Let me talk for a moment about standards, because I do think the micro of the moment does tend to engulf the macro, even if the macro is half a century in the making, okay? The Miami Heat will be interesting at the trade deadline, and I'm guessing beyond it, because, my God, in my history covering sports in this market, there has never been anybody who makes seasons interesting more than the person who's always win now. That team has a standard that is much different than what the Miami Dolphins have, because the Miami Dolphins don't make the playoffs, and you're like, yeah, they never do. The Heat's expectations are, no, you got to be better than Boston. Like, that's where Riley put the standard. Third place ain't good enough. They weren't close against Denver, but second place is as close as you can be. And it's a failure. And no, it's not a failure. Like, I'm not going to do that over the last 5 years. This ending, a failure. I don't think that can be disputed. I don't think Pat Riley would dispute that.
Second place twice with Jimmy Butler is not a failure.
I'm not going to do that. But how do you say everything I'm saying and also point out, yeah, the game is player acquisition. You taught us that. The game is player acquisition, star acquisition to win a championship. You're the one who taught us that there's winning and there's misery. And that's it. And none of the seasons have ended where you expect them to end every season under Jimmy Butler.
And it's just not a sudden development. The writing was on the wall last offseason when we saw everybody in the East get better, and we were just hanging our hat on the development of this franchise, and maybe they have a puncher's chance. And then they managed Jimmy Butler's workload the entire season against their will, because it runs counterculture to them, and he gets hurt against Philadelphia, and you realize, wow, wasted year. Wasted year for Pat Riley, who's getting up there. Wasted year for Jimmy Butler, and this entire thing is flawed. You cannot go through another offseason the same way they did.
Part of the reason that this has gone on so long is because of what Dan mentioned, which is that Pat Riley and this franchise refused to ever be bad. And so there might have been a time where they could have traded Jimmy Butler to acquire picks and young players, but that was even earlier in Bam Adebayo's development, earlier in Tyler Hero's development, and they weren't willing to be a bad team that tanks for multiple years. You talk about Orlando, in the conversation you guys were having yesterday, it's like, well, during the Jimmy Butler era, they were winning 25 or 30 games a year for 5 years. That's why they're good now. It was miserable. Every single year, the Heat are trying to contend and trying to be in it, even if it's somewhat delusional. That's part of what makes them the competitors that they've been.
Okay, you know what,
so
though?
long,
You know
right?
what? But stop with somewhat delusional, because you know what's delusional? Gabe Vincent and Max Strus carrying me to the finals.
Right.
That's delusional.
But
they did it.
The thing about the arrogance. Yeah, why wouldn't he believe that he's going to be right? They haven't been good as Boston, and Bam Adebayo takes Tatum down at the rim. They weren't as good as that team. Like, that Boston team has all the top 5 picks. That Boston team had to be tested like that to get to where it's gotten. But
even the plan with the outliers, and I'm sorry, Dan, but even the outlier, like that incredible, majestic run, I thought the season was over against Chicago in the play-in. It was that flimsy. Like, the entire thing is built on, let's get in the play-in, and hopefully we advance through that.
I know,
and then we'll
but Mike, here's the thing, though. Yes, it's absolutely flimsy that they made that run. But they made that run. Beating Giannis in the first round with Jimmy playing that way proved to all of us, what do you mean Jimmy can be better than Giannis in a series? What do you mean that Giannis can be the favorite who just won the championship? And Jimmy's going to take him down. That changed Jimmy's reputation forever. But let's play, because we can get up and caught up in prisoner of the moment. Stugotz has now changed his tune in defense of Pat Riley.
Yep.
This is Stugotz talking about Pat Riley and Dwayne Wade before Pat Riley got LeBron James and Chris Bosh for Dwayne Wade.
Has Pat Riley failed Dwayne Wade? Seriously. Has Riley and the organization, because Dan, all these other teams, all the other contenders went out and made moves, and the Heat haven't done a single thing. What have they done for Dwayne Wade? They got him Jermaine O'Neal, a broken Jermaine O'Neal. He's going to leave here, and he should leave here.
They got him Shaq.
Yeah.
And a championship.
Since then. Let's sell him on this notion of all these guys we're going to get next year. None of these guys want to come here. None of them. He's failed, Dwayne Wade. Failed the fans. Failed the city. That was then. This is now, Dano.
Well, this is where I caution you, right? Because I expected at the trade deadline. Look, I told you guys a while ago. Everybody was laughing at me. You need to keep an eye on that Minnesota situation, the Minnesota ownership situation. I told you, watch out for Valentine's Day. If you got I may be wrong here because this is the last time that I heard this kind of noise around this man. I do not expect the second half of this Heat season to be a quiet thing. Mike Ryan says getting up there. Pat Riley's 78, man. He's talking about mortality, not career mortality, actual mortality. He still wants to win now. He's not convinced Boston has been tested in the playoffs like they got tested by Miami in the playoffs and won. So you can believe that he's not going to pull off some three-team deal. And I haven't heard any of the experts be able to explain to me how it is that can happen. But I also didn't think they were going to be able to get out from under Whiteside and Dion Waiter contracts. And they did that because they got Jimmy Butler when they didn't have anything to get Jimmy Butler with. So you underestimate this person at your own risk because I actually believe always that he will fix it. Eventually, I'm going to be wrong, but I've just been doing nothing but watching him fix it since I've been here.
I stand with you and Pat Riley.
But what leverage do they have, right? Because normally they're able to get the disgruntled superstar because someone's just looking to get rid of him. Now you think that you're somehow going to get rid of the disgruntled superstar and improve your team,
but who wants
back
to
another
come?
star?
But because the stars run the league, wherever Anthony Edwards wants to go next is where Anthony Edwards is going to end up next.
But I'm saying in this trade, you're not going to improve in a trade with Jimmy Butler. You're just getting him out of town. By the way, sad day at Heat Nation. I obviously, things are going on here. Things are not good with Jimmy. It's been put out there. Jimmy Butler merchandise is 50% off at every mall that I've seen. Walking around every store said 50% off Jimmy Butler jerseys, Jimmy Butler T-shirts. Everybody's preparing. They don't think that this is going to get resolved, Dan.
What Dan said there, though, is kind of the problem. And it's the parts of the Heat media that I don't like and the Heat fandom that I don't like. What recent history do you have of the disgruntled superstar putting Miami in his destination list, which is routine? Miami not winning that pursuit, either not having the type of trade capital that the other teams have, or in the event that a superstar says, I only want to go to Miami, they still found a way to fail. So why do you think it's going to be different with Anthony Edwards? And the only way it could possibly be different with Anthony Edwards in this pie-in-the-sky scenario is you still need capital. And Pat Riley just went out of his way to ruin that possible scenario and not maximizing the return by putting out that statement that put Jimmy in a corner.
I think the capital part of it over the last several years has been fair. It's the reason why Boston has been able to do everything they've done. The team that they built around the stars that they have was built off the backs of a trade of Paul Pierce and Kevin Garnett to Brooklyn that stacked them with all this capital to be able to continue to make moves, including later on Drew Holiday, who they get from Portland that was never going to happen for Miami, and Kristaps Porzingis, who spent the entire postseason injured and would have been a disaster for Miami individually, but works because Boston's so good. The thing about Anthony Edwards or De'Aaron Fox, who's another example of someone who has an incredible relationship with Bam Adebayo, or any of these things that you float out there in the sky, the difference between that and what happened with Damian Lillard individually is Damian Lillard was not willing to make a mess, right?
Greg Cody, major penalty, 5 minutes, me maximum.
Just tired of hearing you talk. You've been on vacation. You came back to a microphone after 2 weeks without talking. You've been on Jimmy Butler too long, and I was just tired of listening to you.
Did you guys hear what Billy Gill said? The folks over at Lids and Sports Authority, they think this is not getting done. I mean, 50% off.
Billy, you seem bored during the last 30 minutes.
I don't think Sports Authority exists anymore.
Hasn't been a thing for like
I have no
10
idea.
years.
Dicks.
Really?
Yeah.
So what are you looking?
It's hard to find, by the way. I've learned, and you guys are telling me, and I'm just, look, I'm a man of the people, but I'm a man of the streets. So I get a lot of my information from the streets and just from observing life. You guys tell me how this is a Panther town, this, that, and the third, and everybody loves the Panthers. If my brother-in-law is listening, I had a situation here, Dan, recently where I ordered him a birthday present, Christmas/birthday present. He was out of town for his birthday.
2 birds.
And that present has gotten lost. And I've called the fulfillment center, and they've told us flat out, we don't know where it is. You're never going to get this. You need to call the company that sold this to you. So I called that company, and they said, well, it's not scheduled to be delivered yet. We can't give you a refund. And I'm not going to name the company because we live in a dangerous time here where I literally can't criticize anyone because every company now has like a streaming media service. So whoever it is that has done me wrong could be my future employer one day. So I need to be very careful, and I can't mention an apparel company that may now have a streaming service that may hire me at some point down the road. So I need to be careful. So I'm not going to take them out, but it was a Panthers championship hoodie. So I said, you know what? This is never going to get here. I just need to get a replacement gift. So that's why I was walking around the Lids and the Dicks of the world yesterday. And you know what I found? Not a Panther anything in sight. No one has Panthers gear
Miami's
down here in Miami. Like Dolphin Mall doesn't have any Panthers gear. The Dicks over there in that new area doesn't have any Panthers gear. So there was two travesties. One, I can't rip anyone anymore because anyone could be a future employer now because everyone's starting their own media companies, which is crazy, or streaming channels. Fast channels, they call them. Everything's a fast channel now. Let's just slow it down. Back in my day, 4 channels. We just moved slowly. You know what I mean?
Put it on the poll.
We watched
Juju.
what was on television.
Slow it down.
Slow it down, fast channel.
Let's slow it down, fast channels.
Exactly
yes or no?
right. Yeah, and I can't find any Panthers gear anywhere. And the third thing I learned, Jimmy Butler gear's on sale everywhere, 50% off.
Billy, while you're cooking, and thank you, I appreciate you cooking like that. When I was watching a Dick's, because you guys have been enjoying just saying that word over and over again. Yes, you've done it. Don't pretend like you haven't. Dick's Sporting Goods. I saw a commercial for Dick's the other day, and it said that their website was Dicks.com, and I'm like, that can't be. There's no way that can be, but it is.
Had to be taken, huh?
You would think.
I'm on it. Yeah.
You would think. I'm saying don't get on it.
I'm on Dick's.
Do not get on. No, don't get on. Don't get on Dick's.
He
Billy
wants to.
I don't think you can anymore. There's like this weird message from this lady.
Billy, since you're cooking, tell us about the Listener League, please. Tell us.
The Listener League, Dan. Thanks. You were participating this week, correct? No?
No.
All right, well, next week. You don't worry. Every week, fresh start. You can join next week if you want to. Just go to dkng.co/Smirnoff. I had a strategy last week. I thought it was foolproof. I thought I was going to be the only one with this strategy.
Incentive guys.
I said incentive guys. It did
Everybody
not
had
work.
Mike Evans.
Yeah, it did not work. I finished probably like 5 from the back last week. But new year, new me. New team, new me. New year, new me, new team. New dkng.co/Smirnoff. Because every week, a new fantasy contest. Go to dkng.co/Smirnoff, presented by Smirnoff, the world's #1 vodka. Please drink responsibly.
This episode of the Dan Le Batard Show with Stugotz is presented by Venmo.
I've got a pretty good stat of the day to get to in a second. But before I do that, there are a couple of things that I wanted to put in front of the audience. One of them, Stugotz, that I'm having some difficulty with is that we had 2 weeks off. And yesterday, I was bombarded with questions about something that happened in and around sports, and only one thing in a way that was really unusual. And it was because the last 2 weeks have had a lot of sports in it, a lot of interesting stories, a lot of stuff. I've seen the numbers. If we talk Jimmy Butler and Tyreek Hill, you guys love that. Just the transaction, the mess. This is content eating time for all these people that Billy can't criticize because everybody's in the content business right now.
Yep. I never know who's going to be a future boss.
Don't stop him. He's about to get to Larinaga.
Haven't even gotten to Larinaga yet. No longer the University of Miami's basketball coach, like the 7th thing on the list that happened locally. But that Fox Sports lawsuit is something that people really want to cluck and gossip about. And it's also something, Stugotz, that is in this amazing content sweet spot of the mainstream is not going to discuss it in any way, and the internet is going to chew it up fairly or unfairly, and it does not matter that a lawsuit can be just anything you say to a lawyer. And that doesn't mean it's fair to any of the people who get dragged by this. Now, I don't know, obviously, what is true or what isn't true in that lawsuit, but I do know that, man, for all of the people who complain about how often I talk about sports media, this one you want me to talk about. Like, you're desperate for me to say the things that show you the inner workings of what might be true or might not be true in that lawsuit. And so I'm going to talk about some parts of this that I find interesting in a second. But before I do that, I just want to point out to you guys what was happening during the break in here with Stugotz.
Still happening.
Stugotz is not listening to me. Stugotz, since the last segment, has been on a busy search of the internet. Stugotz has always been, since I've known him, get rich quick guy. And so what he was saying before the break is, I can't believe I didn't grab Dick's. He wanted the domain name 12 years ago, and he's like, can you imagine the fortune? He's been looking up nothing but domain names for the last 10 minutes.
Now, Dix.com sold back in 2011, the domain. Now, the price is undisclosed, but bowlingballs.com, a domain we all should have grabbed many years ago, that sold for $275,000. Cars.com, which is something that should have been obvious to everyone. I'm upset with myself. Someone grabbed it and eventually sold it for $872 million. VacationRentals.com sold for $35 million. And what I'm thinking about is the future and what domains I should grab today. Billy, let's get on this.
Well, Billy's making faces at you. He's tired of your get-rich-quick schemes.
I mean, if we're doing behind the bit, there's a funny story about us getting scooped on a website. And it was the launch of the T-shirt store where we got very excited and we announced what the T-shirt store was going to be. And then a fan bought the URL because we didn't dot our I's and cross our T's, and then we didn't have the domain that we wanted, and we had to pivot.
You would have thought ESPN would have been on that.
Somehow it got overlooked. We just
the guy held us hostage, and we were just like, you can have it.
But, Mike, when the internet came out, aren't you upset with yourself for not grabbing Christmas.com, which sold for $3.15 million? A bargain, by the way, for Christmas.
All we grabbed was NoSourceInsider.com.
How does cyber squatting work? Because sometimes it doesn't, right? Sometimes can't they just take the cipher and be like, no, you're just trying to cyber squat here. You don't own this.
Is that true? Is there imminent domain for web addresses?
I think that there can be, right? I can't just go and buy Nike.com if they let it expire for some reason.
If you were just sitting on COVIDrelief.com and then you saw the news stories out of Wuhan and you're like, yes.
Some guy's still trying to give me $2,000 for the slow report.
You should take it. You're doing nothing with it. But you haven't tweeted anything.
Slow burn.
Yeah. Oh, wait. Have you reported Bill Belichick's going to UNC yet? Do that.
Is he?
I heard it's
Do that today.
I
We'll
heard
raise
it
the value.
hasn't been great so far at North Carolina with Bill Belichick. We will get an update there in a second. We will get a stat of the day in a second. We will get to Dianna Russini in a second. We'll get to that Fox Sports lawsuit.
Oh, damn. I thought we got it away from
I think
you.
we're good. Covered.
In a second.
Check it off.
There's a lot of stuff to get to. But if you guys had heard what it was during the break, Stugotz actually said to me, he's sausage fingers hitting the keyboard, he's crushing it, and he actually says to me, can you imagine if I had gotten the domain name to DraftKings? And then there's 3 seconds of silence, and we both said at the same time, they just would have changed their name.
I'm surprised Dix didn't go to Rick's. I mean,
I'm excited to have Dianna on because the Bill Belichick contract thing is interesting to me. There's a weird June 1st. Actually, I should not be talking about this. I have someone that is well more informed. Happy New Year, buddy.
Happy New Year to all.
How's the Bill Belichick thing going?
It's a slow burn, but so far Bill Belichick has hired 2 people. His son as the defensive coordinator, and then
Works hard.
Lombardi's son as the quarterback coach. So, and we also got Purdue's backup quarterback.
That's a good one. He played well that one.
they had one win.
Yes. So we got not the starter, but the guy who couldn't beat out the starter.
Purdue was like one of the 3 worst teams in the sport this year.
Listen, Bill sees something in that kid, and that's all I need to know. I mean,
appreciate all your hard work, Taylor. Thank you for.
I must admit, I thought the cachet of Bill Belichick, and year one is always hard. Even for recruiting-based coaches, it is very difficult to have that kind of class. But I thought the cachet of Bill Belichick, the name in the portal, guys would just take visits out of curiosity. And it seems that it's going to take Bill a little bit to navigate these waters.
So what did you want to ask Dianna Russini, our foremost NFL insider?
Dianna, is there a possibility, Because I don't think a $10 million buyout, it going from $1 million to $10 million, is going to stop an NFL owner if they think Bill Belichick is the answer during this coaching cycle. It doesn't appear like he's in the mix for any of these jobs, but could it be? Is there a scenario if an NFL team shows legitimate interest and thinks Bill Belichick is the answer, say the Jacksonville Jaguars, who I know the Cons like Bill Belichick, if they up and decide, you know what, UNC be damned, this is the right guy, we'll pay $10 million, that's nothing to us, do you think Bill Belichick would entertain that? Dianna?
Oh, I didn't know that you guys were coming to me now. I thought you were teasing ahead of what you wanted to ask me.
No.
Hi, guys.
Did you hear what I said, though?
I did. I heard you loud and clear.
Cool.
You just didn't know it was a question for you?
I think milk.com is available.
I find that impossible. If a team shows interest in Bill Belichick, would Bill Belichick actually entertain that? Because I don't see the $10 million buyout thing stopping an NFL owner.
Yeah, I don't think so. I don't think so either. I don't think that's that much money for an owner if he really wants them. The problem is I don't know of an owner right now in the league that's looking for a head coach that is sitting there going, okay, these options are not good enough. Let's go call up Bill Belichick. If you guys remember on the show, we talked about right before Bill took that job at UNC, the oddest of connections between Bill Belichick and the New York Jets came to light, where right before he took the UNC job, he was talking to them about possibly meeting and having a conversation. And you guys know the history with Belichick and the New York Jets, and he spent the whole season on the Manning cast, on every podcast that we know, taking shots at Woody Johnson, taking shots at that organization. A guy that resigned after a day when he was named the head coach there. So the fact that he communicated with Mike Tannenbaum, who's running that Jets search team, to see if maybe he could get in there, tells me that is really where his heart has been. He was willing to go work for an owner he doesn't even respect based on how he's talked about him on the air. But to him, I think being a coach with all the power is still what he wants. And that's why I think Jacksonville's off the table, Mike, because look who's still the GM there, Trent Baalke. Bill Belichick does not want to work with Trent Baalke. That is not a situation that was ever going to pan out.
Why do they like Trent Baalke so much over there in Jacksonville? He seems to have a stranglehold on that position, and it's a little curious.
I think it's a little bit of his own doing in terms of being a good relationship person with the owners. He's really earned that belief from them that he knows what he's doing. But also people tell me that he's a really hard worker. He's one of those guys. He's always in the building. He's always around. And Mike, I do think in this process, a lot of owners don't want to clear house without anyone being in charge to help with the process, right? Because you get rid of the GM, you get rid of the head coach. Who's calling the shots? You are, as the owner. And I don't necessarily believe every owner feels that comfortable calling the shots in terms of the football operation. So Trent is a little bit of that safety net for them as they cast a pretty wide net here, as we're seeing Aaron Glenn and Liam Cohen, Matt Nagy, Anthony Weaver, all these guys expected to get interviews with the Jacksonville Jags.
Dianna, Rex Ryan is telling people he expects to be hired by the Jets. Will he be hired by the Jets? I
love his strategy, right? It's like he is forcing them. He's trying to sort of manipulate the process. Like, I'm telling you you're hiring me. And they're like, yeah, no, we're not doing that, right? Like, thank you. I appreciate it. And you got to love the confidence. And I will say, in a pool of coaches right now that doesn't have that much experience, I see what Rex is doing. And I think he's going to do really well in this interview, because I know the Jets, Mike Tannenbaum, again, leading that search, they are looking for someone who knows what they're doing, who can navigate this journey for them, who knows all the booby traps and the hurdles that come with being a New York Jet head coach. And if anyone knows it, it's Rex Ryan. But don't you think it's funny that Mike Tannenbaum, the general manager of the New York Jets that was fired, who fired Rex Ryan as the head coach, and now they're all sitting together in Palm Beach at Woody Johnson's house talking about how together they can come up with a winning way. It's bonkers.
Pool of coaches is a totally different game.
Yes, I love it.
And I love it, and I want to play it. Which coach is going in the pool with their shirt on? I'll tell you who's not. Andy Reid is going tarp off.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Tarp off? Tarp on?
Yeah,
No, he's going off. Like,
He's
you
got
might
the shirt
think-
off. He does a cannonball right into the
Thank
pool.
you.
Yeah.
Zagak.
Yeah, it's interesting when you talk about the Chiefs right now, they're at a point where they've got like 20-something days off. And Andy told the guys after the game, guys, let's stay in shape. Let's keep our weight down. I've got to keep my weight down. So he's very self-aware of what's going on there. So I'm with you that I think he knows enough at this point in his life that, you know what? Who cares? Just take the shirt off and jump in there.
Stugotz has a top 5 list of most pressure in the playoffs. I want to get to that in a second. I also want to play some video here for Dianna. A lot of people were stunned by this. You guys give me all the information I need here on Jerry Jones. Has a 10-part documentary that Netflix has paid $50 million for that I'm sure is going to be riveting because Jerry Jones, accomplished mercenary salesman, has been a great actor for many, many years. And so to see him acting well is not surprising because I've been watching him do it since he was a nobody who didn't know anything, who just sort of stumbled his way into oil and the Cowboys, and then spent the next 30 years not winning much of anything after Jimmy Johnson, but always keeping his team. So interesting that it's the only 10-part documentary you're going to get on a Jerry Jones. Meadowlark finished second there. That hurt. We could have made that one. We could have made that one. That one would have been good. And I'm sure it will be
If
good.
you ain't first, you're last.
But let's play the acting of Jerry Jones recently here and see from the audience and you guys how surprised you are by this. That is opposite John Hamm and Billy Bob Thornton, and he owns the room for 2 minutes of acting.
JerryJones.com is available.
See if you can get that. Dianna, what are your thoughts on what it is that you just witnessed there? Mike is stunned in the back room, floored.
So good. It's so good, but it wasn't like it was a reach in terms of that character of what he was talking about. It was pretty reflective of his own life, of his own feelings. It's not like we're asking him to go out there, name a situation right now where it would be something out of sorts for Jerry Jones.
We can't be nitpicking his range.
Ridiculous.
He's Jerry
Ridiculous.
Jones. That's the first
Come on,
time. He's
Dianna.
the greatest actor I've ever
be
seen.
shitting me, Dianna. Like you can
He
find
had
any
tears
reason to
in his
criticize
eyes.
this man.
I have so many questions watching that. I want to know how many takes. I want to know where he put his head at. Like, did he have an acting coach? How many times they went through this? I want to know what John Hamm thought about that. That was incredible. My question is there another owner in football that could go toe-to-toe with Jerry Jones in that scene? Who could do that?
It is a good
Arthur
question.
Blank?
It is Arthur Blank could not do that.
I would love to see the audition.
No,
Woody Johnson?
No, Arthur Blank, no.
John Mara. He's
John
got
Mara.
acting in his blood.
You think the owner of Home Depot, who we have accused because of his mustache of having a house that's haunted, you believe that Arthur Blank can throw down in acting with what we just saw, which is John Hamm and Billy Bob Thornton silently awed by the tears in Jerry Jones's eyes?
Jimmy Haslam auditioning for the role of.
This is where my head went. I went to the owners' meetings, and when I'm running around the lobby in the hotel trying to talk to all these guys, who holds court with presence, right? Who sits there and just owns that circle of reporters that are asking them a million questions? Most owners are awkward and uncomfortable by it. Arthur Blank is comfortable in that circle. John Mara, obviously you saw him talking about Dable and Joe Shane yesterday. He's comfortable. He's probably the best answer because obviously his niece, his granddaughter is a famous actress herself. So I will retract my answer on Arthur Blank. I'll say John Mara is my
You know
number
what?
one
Forgive me. Have you not gotten familiar with the work of Jimmy Haslam? Can I get some more Jimmy Haslam auditioning for this?
In that room with your family. Some of them may have aided you in coupon and rebate scandals that you got away with somehow because of money. And your daughter's there, and don't forget, she's the reason why you acquired Deshaun Watson. It's entirely on her, not you. And your family's there, and that one unhoused gentleman that told you to draft Johnny Manziel.
I do enjoy this impression.
I don't even think that's how Jimmy Haslam. I don't do a
I was
Tennessee
just
accent.
thinking, have you ever heard Jimmy Haslam talk? He talks slower. He asks a lot more questions to you. And he thinks it through. So you're just take the pace down a
What
little
do you
bit.
think when you see that unhoused gentleman over there that told me to draft Johnny Manziel, John Hamm?
Good. Better.
Thank you.
Better.
Thank you for helping him, Dianna. If we can craft that character a little bit. It's the content generation right now. Everybody wants to get in the game. Jerry Jones is a 10-part documentary as Mike McCarthy sniffs the Chicago Bears job.
You would think he would have secured that domain. I mean, if he wants to get in the game.
I got to see Mark Davis's audition tape. Mark Davis, sorry for the noise here in the PF Chang's.
You need to, Stugotz, get jerryjones.com, please. You need to purchase
I'm
that.
securing that. I'm securing many things, including DanLeBatard.com. How about that?
I think someone
Robert
already
Kraft
secured
would do
that.
well.
I do.
Don't you think
Kraft-
Kraft would be good?
Not as good as Ursay, but
Wait a
Kraft would
minute.
be
Wait a minute. I saw Kraft acting with his 20-year-old girlfriend.
I saw that tape, yeah.
Like that tape, that he was not acting well, Dianna. Are you not familiar with this tape?
I'm not.
Okay, you will revise your answer. Video, see if you can find that for me and throw it up somewhere.
Somewhere in America, there's a person that has perfected and crafted a Dean Spanos impression for 20 years, waiting for this moment, just dying. Dying.
Dianna, I want your commentary here to the degree that you can. If I know we can't telestrate this, but if there's a way to show you, Mina Kimes is still an amazing novice sometimes when it comes to the very basic tools in this business. Now, keep in mind, I watched her on Netflix, and I saw her be better than RG3 and Manti Te'o on football, more informative. And I was like, man, she is bringing heat on a Netflix telecast that I was stunned how well all of that went, Stugotz. The televising of these giant things live are not easy. These things are not easy. And Netflix crushed it on Christmas Day, and Mina crushed it on Christmas Day. But what I miss most about Mina was the rawest version of her here, where she just doesn't know where things are. She gets distracted by the smallest things. Let's play for the audience here. Mina Kimes having no earthly idea where she is on television as she just sort of walks into a camera shot. And Dianna, I want you to break this down for me and just explain your friend to us.
Shefty, let's start in Baltimore. What do we know about the availability of Zay Flowers Saturday night against the Steelers? Hey, Mina. Get it, girl. Oh, go back one more time. There we go. All right.
Myself. Nope, I got to go sit back down. And now she's just absolutely horrified that she stepped into the shot.
Hold on. Just have Mina keep walking.
Of Schefter. And Schefter's right. Nobody cares. Show more Mina. I want to see more Mina. Less Adam anyways. And now she's just horrified. Marcus is being a good big brother there with the arm around her. Like, look, it's not a big deal. It happens. You step there. First of all, I've sat in that studio a million times. There's like 90 cameras. So I'm with Mina. I feel bad for her there. How is she supposed to know? But by the way, why are you having her move during the show anyways? Just have her sit there. Look at her on Netflix. She sat in that same spot pretty much the whole show. And I'm with you. My takeaway from Netflix actually was, and this isn't some female empowerment moment here, I thought the women held that entire broadcast down. No, held it up, right? Kay Adams was a star. Laura Rutledge was an absolute star. Mina Kimes, all three of them. It was like they've done this every day because they do it every day. Reps certainly help, but they were certainly the most educated, most poised, most conversational. So credit to that. And that was awesome.
MinaKimes.net is available and .au.
Mina, not a good actor. I've had to do stuff with her. Not good.
Hold it up and hold it down. Like, I know what you meant there because she did hold it down, but you corrected yourself and you said hold it up, but she held it down. Like, which did she do? The women held down the Netflix telecast, and that's a positive. That's a compliment.
And lifted it up.
Which would you rather, to hold it up or to hold it down? Put it on the poll at Le Batard Show.
Hold it up.
I'd rather lift something
You lift up and hold
Right.
down.
Sounds heavy. I have a
Does
bad
sound
back.
heavy.
Yeah,
I
but-
would rather
But just
hold
holding it down.
Like,
No,
I
but
can-
you hoist the Larry O'Brien trophy.
I
You
just-
don't hold it down.
Yeah,
I
holding
mean,
it down,
right.
I just kind of
Yeah, but there's
met expectations. Lifting it up.
I
means
find
it's a
I think
pass.
there's strength in holding it down. You push down.
Either way, we're keeping it steady.
I'm in control. You hold up, your arms get tired, your back goes out a little, the legs get a little weak. You hold down, and I think you're in more control. You have all the power. So thanks, Mina, for holding it down.
Yesterday, Billy, you told me that if the Dolphins had a backup quarterback who could have just merely held it down, they'd be championship contending.
I said this?
Yes, you said it.
I said that.
Yes.
Okay, I said that yesterday.
You made it about the
I
backup
did.
quarterback. You kept telling me that the Dolphins season was all about the backup quarterback. And if a quarterback had just held it down, gone 2-2 while Tua was away.
Well, I mean, had they gone 2-2,
Tua
they
and
probably
Tua.
would have been, in the playoffs. I found myself longing for the Kenny Pickett's of the world the last 2 weeks. It's not a good place to be, but I was like, you know what? If Mike White was still on this team, maybe something would have been different here.
You are right. That is a horrific place to be when you are yearning for Kenny Pickett.
Oh, it was so fun. I was texting everyone like, oh, Pickett was available. We could have had him.
Dianna, the Houston Texans are always playing this game. They own this game. This is their game. They don't necessarily win it. There's a Hoyer. There's an assortment of bad quarterbacks I've seen for the Texans play this game.
Hoyer should be on the sidelines.
Is there one or two Yates? Every time they've ever played a wild card game, this is fact, every time it's been that window. The first game, now known as like the streaming exclusive usually, it is always the Houston Texans for whatever reason. If they're in the wild card, they're the first thing that you see. It is astonishing to me. Does Houston not have any national cachet? This is a pretty big market. Or are they just always that kind of team? Like, they have the exciting quarterback, the appointment television type of quarterback, at least he was last year.
I don't think they've broken through
Not with
yet.
pressure up the middle, though. Not with no one can play the position if your guards and center can't block anybody. Like, no one can play the position well.
Just saying, they have a young budding superstar at the position, a person that everybody crowned this most recent offseason. It's just, I understand why Yates is curtain jerking. I understand why Hoyer is curtain jerking. It's just funny that the Houston Texans perpetually are always in this TV slot.
If you told me Brian Hoyer was the backup quarterback in Indy right now on the roster, I would actually believe you. Right? Doesn't it seem? He's not playing anymore, right?
I don't know.
It's got to be a wrap on him. It's
think
got to
so.
be.
I think you know what? I think he's in the media now. I think I saw him tweet yesterday. Now that we're talking about it.
No, he's got to be a backup somewhere.
There's got to be plenty.
I will not live a day on this earth where Brian Hoyer is not a backup for somebody. I will not do it.
Kirk Cousins' roommate in college.
Why is it, Billy, that you're back there grinning as if you've done something bad?
Well, no, I've been tasked with finding domain names that are available for Stugotz's Cyber Squad. I found that toilet.com is either available or it's a dating site. It's odd. It's a little confusing, but we found that joshallen.com has been cyber squatted, but it's available. You just need to call Todd. It says so right there. Welcome joshallen.com for sale. Call Todd, asking $200,000.
Yeah.
So it seems as though Todd has figured out this game and is trying to shake down Josh Allen.
I think he'll take 150.
I think he'd take less.
Dianna is that available?
Well, I don't want to.
Yeah,
Here's the thing,
well, hold
Diana.
on, I just
We did
purchased
some
something.
researches for you, but we don't want to put out what we found is available because we don't want people cyber squatting to you. We can connect offline.
Yeah.
I want to get this story, Billy.
I'll tell you how much.
There are a number of things that I have to get to, okay? And one of them is I need to know whether you guys think it's worth the content to go through.
No, do not pay $200,000 for joshallen.com. If that's what you're thinking, do not do that. Let's just call Todd. We can talk to Todd for free.
It's not what I was thinking. If you'd allowed me to finish, you would have known what I was thinking and you would have just listened. But instead, you've stayed where you want to stay. The story you were telling about ESPN not securing our domain name, that was the beginning of the end. And I don't know whether anybody wants any more information on that or not.
I think it was kind of like the middle of the end.
No, that
I'd like some info.
Yeah, I think
Network
people
launch,
would people would find that interesting. I think that. But Dianna, can you walk us through this? Because I talked to Dominique about this yesterday, and I know that we're going to get into the playoffs right now, and it's going to be an insanity, and everyone's just going to forget. Oh, the Cleveland Browns, they had all of those expectations. They ran off Baker Mayfield. He's pretty good. And then they made the most disastrous financial decision a team has ever made with Deshaun Watson and wrecked everything that was hope in Cleveland. And the thing I was asking Dominique is, how closely can we tie together something that doesn't, to my recollection, have a precedent in the sport, which is a top 5 quarterback in his prime? They were still fighting over him to guarantee him all that money.
Yeah.
Short circuits, pretty obviously, because of everything that was happening off of the field. Like, it's...
The injuries also. Like, there was a brief dip in form. Like, there were questions when he was hitting the market.
Look, he went from a top 5 quarterback in his prime to one of the worst quarterbacks in the sport. And I'm assuming, and I ask you this, Dianna, I'm assuming, is it the body or is it the mind?
I think it's both. I think it's all of it. I think this has been a really hard time in his life for a lot of different reasons, but he's also not the same person. I was there in Cleveland during training camp, and just as someone standing on the sideline, and I've covered Deshaun Watson for a lot of years, especially when he was with the Texans. He does not have that same sparkle at all when it comes to his interactions with his teammates, with the coaching staff. It's like he's doing it and he's trying it, but he's the dull version of himself now. And you're right. Like you have to wonder how much of all of this has affected his psyche, his confidence. Because to Mike's point, there were definitely moments where you saw little shine from him, and it was like, there it is, get it, come on, stick with it, like find it. And then it would never pan out. So how do you fix it? How does this coaching staff figure out a way to bring out the best in him? Because I can tell you, even in the building, it's not great.
Wouldn't everybody just say, though, that all of what has happened there, at the core soul spirit of what the Cleveland Browns are, selling themselves out to make that particular dysfunction the thing that they were going to guarantee money to, that's irreparably damaged, is it not? Like at the core of the being of who you are as a human and who you are as a football player and who you are as an organization, there is an irreparable damage that has been done by that transaction at that position to a person who's broken.
We've seen other players go through life situations that may not be as bizarre, but just as complicated and have those off the field conflicts. And they can go play, right? We've seen players over the years in every sport battle through. We saw Kobe Bryant do it, right? Where you're in the middle of something and you're able to overcome it. He's not been able to overcome this. I don't think, look, I don't know this, but you have to wonder if he even loves to play at this point.
Oh no, that's got to be. It's got to be a prison to go into that huddle. Look.
He's gonna love not playing for a year and getting paid in full.
We can all agree that the shame of that walking into the locker room, like you're a changed person as a leader walking into the locker room.
All accounts, though, like he went into that locker room and won them over. They were all backing him up. The thing about Baker Mayfield was they wanted an adult in the room. Baker wasn't fully baked as a leader there, no pun intended. And Deshaun Watson went out of his way, off-season trips. Like, everybody was backing him up to the bitter end.
They were backing up the talent.
You saw the reaction to the crowd booing him. Everybody in that locker room was pretty pissed off about it. Like, he had won them over as a leader.
I'll let it go after this. I'm trying to come up in my head with where it is I have a precedent for something like this. Where, like, hey, there's 7 guys in the world who can do that well. And now he's terrible, and it's over, and it's done.
What do you want the Browns to do, though? Like, at this point? Like, what do you think Jimmy Haslam should do?
Well, they've got a top 2 pick, right?
He's got a room full of family.
Yeah, they're going to go quarterback, right?
House gentleman there in the corner. They have a top 2 pick, so do they go quarterback? Because I'm seeing all these mock drafts, and for whatever reason, they don't have them going quarterback.
No,
there.
you have to go quarterback. You have to present your fan base a future. You have to.
Well, you have to go quarterback just because of like how your roster is constructed. Because no matter what happens with Deshaun Watson, unless there's some other liability, they have to pay that contract in full. So they need to go cheap at the position. The best way to go cheap at the position is hit on a draft pick. So they're either taking Shedeur Sanders or Cam Ward, right?
Yeah, they're going quarterback. Guys, they see what we see. This is not a mystery. This is not like they're psyched about Deshaun Watson's ability, leadership, play. They know this isn't great, but they've also have no way out of this. So they've got to sort of just barrel through, and it's almost like they're constructing their team as if Deshaun Watson isn't a part of it, right? They've got to move forward here and find the answer, because I do think the fan base will forgive if they hit on a quarterback and this young guy comes out and, let's just say, beats Deshaun in camp, and the Browns head to the playoffs next year with a rookie quarterback. I think there will be some forgiveness.
Perhaps from some portions of the fan base, but perhaps Miami Hurricanes fans that are in that fan base that took moral stands and consider themselves principled. But hey,
but
Taylor?
here's the other interesting part to that, Mike. I over the weekend I was just talking to a couple general managers about last year's draft class. Just how quarterback heavy and talented this group is, and obviously we're seeing this now in the playoffs with the young rookies that are the stars of the show. And I was asking about these upcoming quarterbacks. Where would they fall in last year's draft class? And 2 GMs said definitely after Bo Nix. One said Cam would probably fall before Bo because some team probably wouldn't have understood or believed how good Bo is, right? Like
fall
Sean
after,
Payton.
fall after.
No,
not
fall before.
It's a classic
falling
hold
in,
down,
slotting
hold down, hold up.
Yeah. Slot in before you
after,
fall
it's
out.
after.
Yeah.
You
Hold
gotta
on.
do
Hold
the
them
after
up.
thing.
Let's
It's
hear
not
it
like
out.
holding.
Yeah. Hold on.
Bo Nix is holding them down in Denver.
Holding it
Jaden
down.
Daniels.
Holding
Yes.
it down.
But lifting them up.
Jaden Daniels is lifting them up in Washington.
Interesting.
Am I right?
Here, Dianna, is who you were saying was going to be acting better than Jerry Jones. This is Bob Kraft at an audition with what I believe was his, I don't know. Back, Dianna. Take it back. Take back what you said, that you thought Bob Kraft would act as well as Jerry Jones opposite
I
Billy
think
Bob.
Jerry Jones changed my life with that performance. I swear.
We didn't see how that scene
Nomination.
ends. I mean, in fairness to Bob Kraft.
I mean, that's a porn for sure, right?
No, I didn't think it was a great script. Just to defend him there. Like I thought the writing could have been better. They weren't really pushing him. They almost wrote it in a way to make him sound dumb. Whereas I think a script like we heard yesterday in the press conference, that's a job well done when he was talking about the changes at his head coaching position. That's some good acting.
Dianna Russini, she's the senior NFL insider for The Athletic. She's the co-host with Chase Daniel of the Scoop City podcast. It is very popular. Thank you, Dianna. It's nice seeing you, as it always is.
Thanks, guys. Great to see you.
We seemed to distract her with the coaching carousel stuff. She seemed to be, she powered through it. Mina would have stopped in her tracks and started asking all sorts of questions. She just powered right through it. Mm-hmm. We did distract her, Chris. You noticed we were doing that, right? She was talking about the coaches and the coaching carousel. We never got to Mike McCarthy as the Chicago Bears coach. Like, how happy does that make Packers fans? Like, I didn't think Packers fans could laugh more at Bears fans, but them going after Mike McCarthy, who would come without whatever was Aaron Rodgers was doing for them in Green Bay, we didn't even ask her about that.
Yeah, we should have.
There's a disconnect between like the media and like people in football. People seem to actually like Mike McCarthy in football, but he's like a joke to everybody like us.
Right. I spent that segment putting a bid in on DiannaRussini.com.
I think I have a good stat of the day. Does anyone in there think they have a better stat of the day? Can any of you beat what I'm saying is a pretty damn good stat of the day?
I think I might have one for you, Dan. I've been holding on to this for a couple of weeks now.
Why are you talking like that?
Because I'm afraid to say I have something better than you.
Because he's been holding it in for a couple of weeks.
Yep.
Give me the music.
Start of the day, start of the day. It is your start of the day. Start of the day, start of the day. It is your start of the day. Start of the day, start of the day. It is your start of the day. Start of the day, start of the day. It is your start of the day.
Stat of the day is presented by Miller Lite.
I'm going to reveal something here I've never revealed before. You know that Stugotz has beef throughout the top of our industry because Rich Eisen or somebody else accuses him of being a bad person when Stugotz accuses them of stealing something from him. But I am willing to admit for the first time here on the air, we have stolen the stat of the day thing from Dan Patrick. It is totally stolen. Once upon a time, I think I concocted some scenario where he had stolen something from us that I think involved Stugotz. Maybe Super Bowl Saturday. I don't remember what it was.
Super Bowl Saturday.
And I stole back stat of the day. And I will just tell you that secrets like that will be unveiled at the Super Bowl when Dan Patrick and I get together. I've got plenty more. But Dan Patrick, have you guys ever been to Tipitina's in New Orleans? It is a fun and cool place. And Dan Patrick and I are doing an intimate night just for like people who are really about the community of radio and would like to hear about how the innards of this stuff is made, because our producers talk on the air, stolen from Dan Patrick. He was doing that before we were doing that. And so he and I are getting together at the Super Bowl. It means I will be sniffing and whiffing around God Bless Football at some point that week.
Great stat.
I will get to the stat in a second. But the whole thing is stolen from Dan Patrick, and I want you to know that.
RichEisen.com is available, Dano.
Billy, what were you saying in my ear as I was distracted by the alarm in here? Is the equipment melting again? Because that's what killed Hour 2 yesterday. Is the equipment melting again?
Well, I mean, it's a new building. It's like 4 years old, so we're figuring out the kinks.
Mike, what do the people need to know about what I'm doing with Dan Patrick during Super Bowl week? It's ticketweb.com. You search Le Batard. It's pretty easy to find our audience and Dan Patrick. It's going to be an intimate night, so it's not going to be that many people.
Dan, I'm not sure you understand QR codes, but in the event that many in our audience do, there is a QR code right now if you're watching along on YouTube or any of our fine partners, including Peacock, in which you can also find Dan Patrick. You scan that QR code, it will take you right to a ticket link. But yes, you are right. If you search TicketWeb and you search Dan Le Batard, it is the first result. This is going to be a wonderful evening, very intimate. You interviewing Dan.
And Dan interviewing me.
Huh.
Dan's...
Couple of Dans cutting it up.
Sorry to interrupt you.
No
It's
problem.
one of your signature lines, and I just
It's
stepped
two
on
Dans,
it.
you know.
No holds barred? Is there anything we're not going to touch? What are we doing here?
I think everything is going to be touched.
Wow.
That is where you can actually get Dan's FS1 thoughts.
I'm just telling you all that we're telling our audience before Dan Patrick has told his audience, and there are only going to be a few hundred tickets for this sold.
No, this is very intimate. It should be an in-demand ticket. This is an event that plenty of people travel to, and there's going to be meet and greet opportunities. We're going to make sure that it's an evening that fans of you or Dan or both will never forget.
When do you determine that you should hold something back for the next one? You know what I mean? Like obviously you say we're going to tell all, but you got to hold a little bit back for the next tell all. You know what I mean?
You have to determine first whether or not there's going to be a part 2.
Ah.
Yes.
Is there going to be a part 2?
Yeah, Paulie interviews Billy.
Oh.
This could be a series as we partner. Look, man.
I want Fritzy.
Stugotz, we're really valuable right now. Like, this is the content streaming age. We got our independent thing, and we're in a contract year, and we can become free agents in 6 months. And everybody's in the game now, wants sports content. Like, we could make a series out of teaming up with Dan Patrick.
Or we can really cash in on RichEisen.com and not need any of this.
Mm-hmm.
Let's do that.
Yeah.
All right, so here's the stat of the day.
Oh, yeah.
We keep talking about basketball, and very soon we do all understand, if not injured, that Wemby is going to break all of the records. And what Wembanyama is doing through 100 games. Listen to this, Stugotz. Through 100 games.
Yep.
More threes through 100 games than Clay, than Steph, than Durant, than Irving, than Harden, first 100 games of their career. More blocks through 100 games than Shaq and Dikembe and Hakeem. More rebounds than Karl Malone and Barkley and Kevin Garnett. More points than LeBron and Durant and Wade and Duncan. He's 21. He's growing, maybe still physically. What he is going to do to the sport if he doesn't break is just break all of the records, because that is an extraterrestrial playing basketball. Seven people. That height cannot do those things ever. History of the sport.
I tried to warn everybody.
He broke the sport. He's a freak. He's amazing. But it's not as good of a stat as this one, Dan.
Well, Dan's was a wordy stat. I mean,
per Jeremy Frank of MLB Random Stats, Babe Ruth hit more home runs in Jimmy Carter's lifetime than any currently active player.
Not better.
Let me think about that
Not
for a
better.
second.
I don't
No,
even
it's good.
understand
Not
it.
better.
I'm
Babe
not sure
Ruth
if-
hit
yeah.
430
I heard
home runs
yeah.
while Jimmy Carter was alive.
Yeah.
Giancarlo Stanton is the active leader in home runs at 429.
As confusing as it was, I still like Dan's better. I mean,
Did you know that Jimmy
Everyone
Carter
likes
was
Dan better.
alive for every Nosferatu premiere?
what?
That's a good one.
That's a good stat.
Jimmy Carter never saw Joel Embiid make a conference final. I saw that joke making the rounds on the internet. Can we get to that sound of Mike Francesa talking about Jimmy Carter, remembering Jimmy Carter?
I just see the breaking news that former President Jimmy Carter has passed away at the age of amazingly 100. I don't know if he's the first president to ever make 100. He was not a great president.
Love that.
A trilogy. We need more of them.
Yes, we do.
I
He
endorse.
was setting up there. I'm like, oh, he's going somewhere with this.
I was. You can wait a second before criticizing. No, you can't. You're Mike Francesa. He's dead. Get there quick before the body's cold. Not a great president.
Give it a pregnant pause.
That stat was basically just Babe Ruth is a better home run hitter than any active home run hitter.
No, it's Jimmy Carter's old. That's
no,
what
it's
it
not.
is.
No, because the stat was Babe Ruth hit more home runs than any active MLB player.
No, Babe Ruth hit more home runs while Jimmy Carter was alive. 430 of his 700-plus home runs.
Do you see what you've done to the
I
show
hate this.
after promising that your
It's
stat?
a good stat.
That's a great stat.
This
is on you. Whoever doesn't like the stat, it's on you. You got to look in the mirror and just
It's on
accept
you
it.
guys.
That's a damn good stat.
I'd put it up for a vote. Democracy in honor of Jimmy.
I like Mike's.
He would have liked it.
Not a good president.
Mike's is the best.
Chris, you are of the belief. Are you now voting? Because I would like our stat of the day to evolve into a growing competition between people trying to top each other with a giant prize at the end of the season for whoever it is that gets this particular victory.
Watching a game with you? Or?
I can't wait
gonna
for
have to be another
Taylor
one.
to submit 12 videos.
Little Rays game?
I mean, in the future, you can watch a game with me and Dan Patrick. That would have some value. Like if we were to partner in a way that would conquer the streaming wars. Chris, can you help me navigate how we turn this into a competition? Because you're voting publicly for Jeremy's stat over the Wembanyama stat that I gave
I
you.
was more just arguing that it's a good stat. They're both good stats. I'm going to go with Jeremy's though over Mike. Yes, I will say that. That's just my vote.
Okay. It's a controversial one. And I know you don't like those controversial waters. You like to be right in the middle. But you're siding publicly with Jeremy. Billy, you didn't understand what the hell Jeremy was talking about. Chris is saying that's on you.
Okay. I mean, it's not, but that's fine.
Siding with me here is a dangerous game.
Well, I was
Chris. You
confused.
might not want to do it.
I was confused by what it is that you were giving as a stat, but my stat was very long, as Stugotz correctly
And
criticized.
confusing, yeah.
Well, was it confusing?
Slightly less confusing.
Well,
yes.
How was mine confusing? How was my stat of the
Why
day?
don't you read it again? Let's hear it.
Yeah. From the beginning.
all right.
All of it. Yeah.
Wembanyama through 100 games of his career. Why'd you guys do that? You know what, Jeremy? Get out of here again. Get out of here.
Minor penalty, 2 minutes for boring.
So dueling stats of the day for a big prize at the end of the year?
I think we could do that in a way that is fun. You guys see what's happening throughout the industry. Billy was making fun of it earlier about how everybody's in the content game now. But Dominique Foxworth is having a live show. He's having a live show where the trivia is Bomani against Dan Graziano for sports nerd trivia greatness for all time. Billy Gill is also trying to build a giant God bless football empire that travels. Billy Gill and Stugotz did a coast-to-coast football tour that they invented on the fly. I believe competing stat of the days might be a better March Madness tournament than the one you've presently designed for us that it just has me going to a college basketball game with somebody.
I mean,
that one was approved.
We're going to put Jeremy's as a, 7 seed? I mean, I'm down to torment the fans if that's what you want. Have them vote for a 3-month-old stat from Jeremy.
We have big breaking NFL news.
We do?
Yeah.
That's not the order that usually happens in.
The Tennessee Titans have fired general manager Ran Carthon. Now, you may think that this is not that important, but as of yesterday, Cam Ward was favored on most sports books to be the number 1 overall pick. In fact, the head of college scouting over at the Tennessee Titans was A.J. Highsmith. So I happen to know there was a lot of positive traction for Cam Ward to go number 1 overall to the Tennessee Titans, but now they are blowing out their front office with this number 1 pick. So
hold on a
huge
second.
developments.
Hold on a second. I want imaging for that because Mike Ryan has now done that about half a dozen times. The I happen to know is his Adam Schefter.
Yes.
The I happen to know is his Schwarzenegger, I'll be back, whatever your catchphrases are. When he hits you with an I happen to know, it's like, hey, I'm not being silly guy here. I've talked to a person who knows a person. This is valuable information. That's Mike being an information broker.
Yeah, I was pretty certain Cam Ward was going number 1 to the Tennessee Titans prior to this move. This move is surprising.
Let me talk about Cam Ward for a second because, Stugotz, I don't know if you saw this over the break. I really did enjoy this, and I was also confused by it, like legitimately confused by it. A lot of people objected to my prisoner of the moment take that Cam Ward just had a season so prolific that I'm willing to say that at any position, any time, that's the best quarterback that's ever played for the University of Miami. And outside of Rick Barry, that's the best season I've seen a person have. People thought that I had no sense of history, but I've seen all the quarterbacks who won Heismans for the University of Miami. Their statistics are dwarfed by Cam Ward.
You're talking just quarterbacks. You're not talking about the Warren Sapps, the Michael Irvins.
He did send out a tweet that alluded to him possibly being the greatest player in program history, and at that point, you have to stand down.
Okay, Rick Barry can argue. I'm talking about a prolific season. I'm talking about what it is the University of Miami just wasted when what I saw was historic greatness by any measure. And when I put the stats in front of you, because this is the part I was legitimately confused by. I'm like, it's not close. I'm not saying something controversial to say that this is the most prolific season a University of Miami quarterback has ever had. It's empirically so.
He has all the records.
It's not an opinion, but the arguments I got on behalf of Toretta and Testaverde because they had better defenses or better coaches or better skill guys.
Or they won a national
Yeah,
championship.
but it has nothing to do with what I'm talking about.
I know, but that's the one that fans can't really wrap their head around. And also, look, the eras are a little bit different, but yeah, luckily for this program, they have a prestige about them, and to ring eternal in the minds of many, you have to win big.
Okay, but guys, winning's not a quarterback stat. Like, I get it. I get what we're doing there, and
It is when it comes to your legacy.
We've done it for a long time.
Not as much in college, though.
It is. Joe Burrow's legacy is not just that he was great; is that he won big.
No, but Mike, like the year Geno won the Heisman Trophy, he had 19 touchdowns and 7 interceptions. Like, Cam Ward had a better season.
It is not remotely a hot take what Dan said. Cam Ward is the greatest, most prolific quarterback that ever went through that program. If you look at an individual season, it is really impossible to refute.
I think what people are doing there is they know the Canes' history. They know how many national championships they've won, and they just imagine, hey, the quarterback play had to be great,
All right.
Dan. They don't realize it was Craig Erickson and Steve
Stugotz,
Walsh
but
and
wait,
guys
but-
like that.
but wait,
Jaron Williams.
But wait, all right, just okay. Look, it's the lamest of flexes, but okay, you know Canes' history, yes, okay, as do I, and I don't. Like, I've seen the quarterbacks who have played the position, and it's not just numbers on a page when I tell you that Cam Ward had 1,500 more yards than Vinny Testaverde, that he had 39 touchdowns compared to Testaverde's 26, compared to Toretta's 19, that, yes, it's different eras, but he also threw fewer interceptions, and his completion percentage was better. Like, it's not close statistics. It's this guy, and I will tell you again, I saw these two people playing with nothing but first-round picks. Like, not all over the field, defense, offense, and the coaches are better than these coaches. Like, Canes' history, what are you talking about? This is not close. It's not an argument. It's not a controversial opinion. It is, as far as subjective things go in sports, a fact.
But you're going to have fans argue even the merits of Ken Dorsey. Who would have an argument for this because of the amount that he won? And then you go back and you watch some of Ken Dorsey's throws and you wonder, wow, I remember that differently.
It's also kind of like, who cares? You know, like it led to absolutely nothing, and it was a one and done year here at UM. Like he's not
taking this opportunity. Really, thank you for speaking for the audience.
No, I'm just saying, like
it was the best Miami Hurricane season in damn near 20 years.
But it led to nothing, and he's not like a legacy Hurricane. He's just a gun for hire. He was a mercenary that came down here to try to get them to the playoffs, and it didn't happen.
If I may, led to nothing. That really undervalues the
But
program.
they lost the Pop-Tarts Bowl.
The program that they're trying to build. It's year 3 of Mario Cristobal. The book on Mario Cristobal was that he was a quarterback killer prior to this.
And a bad in-game coach.
Coach.
Which he still hasn't shaken.
But I actually think he did a lot this year to shake that, considering the one-score games in which he pushed all the right buttons.
Did you watch the Syracuse game?
I did, and I actually don't think he was wrong there. You're entitled to your opinions when it comes to that, but the math is actually in his favor. He kind of corrected that. But the big narrative around him was that, look what he did to Justin Herbert. Like, this guy kills quarterbacks, and he changed that around. And year 3 of Mario Cristobal, everybody knew this program's heading in the right direction, and Cam Ward was a big piece of that. So, no, I don't think it was all for naught. It was a year that Miami had that I've been dying 15 years to watch. That wasn't a fraud the way that 2017 felt like.
But he needs to get another one now.
He does, but you can't get another one without getting the first one, and he doesn't get the first one without Cam Ward.
But Billy's point is a good one. There's a difference in terms of how UM fans remember these quarterbacks. There's a difference between a Geno, a Steve Walsh, an Erickson who waited his turn. Then there is, for a hired gun who came in one season, didn't make the playoffs. Like, fans are going to feel differently about those guys.
That's college now, though.
Yeah,
like that. It's just going to.
It's
everywhere. It's not
all
just
the
here.
Heisman Trophy winners are transferred.
Right.
All of them.
But that's part of why it is that I'm surprised by the reaction. Right? You guys do understand that I'm sitting here saying something that I just believe is matter of fact. Like it's nothing. The reaction was when I tell you what is the cost of everything that we're watching here, where it's not going to be amateur anymore. It's people will protect their memories from being cheapened because of everything you just mentioned that is meant to diminish Cam Ward when he's going to be the #1 pick. Like everything that just happened with Cam Ward, if he's not the #1 pick, he's #2, and it is an ocean between 2 and 3. So Miami got him cheap. I've watched enough Hurricane football to know they didn't fix their problems. Those aren't first-round picks running all over the field. Cam Ward, you're denying him his greatness based on his defense wasn't good enough, his coach wasn't good enough, the recruiting wasn't good enough, the skill guys weren't good enough, and I just saw a guy dominate at the position the way I've never seen as someone, and forgive me for the pridefulness in this, but if you're going to allow me to be a gatekeeper on anything in sports, the University of Miami's history is something that I've covered since the beginning, and I'm not prisoner of the moment. I'm awed by what I just saw, and I think Miami wasted it.
Yep.
Like, they wasted something that you never get.
They did. It was a blown opportunity. It ended in a bummer. But I will say, the amount of that Cam Ward caught for opting out of the second half, which is he didn't opt out of anything. In fact, he played more than anybody had actually planned for. Emory was taken. They were going to evaluate Emory Williams in that game.
He played too much,
and it was discussed. If you don't think he didn't talk to the NFL teams that were eyeing him, because I've heard that take out.
You happen to know.
I know this. Like this.
Wait
was
a minute.
discussed.
Is that another stat?
I happen to know. I know this.
I happen to know.
Right.
Like this was discussed with NFL teams. Think about what he did. Watch the film of that first half against a top 5 pass defense. Cam Ward was missing 3 of his 4 top receivers in that game. He was missing 3 of his top 4 receivers in that half against a top 5 pass defense. And the guy was just putting on a masterclass.
He makes 6 throws a game that I'm like, those are all like the maximum professional throws.
But you guys know what's going on here. It's never been easier to make the college football playoffs, and with Cam Ward having that great season, they still didn't make the playoffs. So, I mean, that factors into how people feel about this season.
All right, cool. Who's the greatest quarterback in Wyoming history? It's Josh Allen. They didn't win with him.
Mike, I'm not saying that I care. I don't. I don't care who the greatest quarterback in UM history is. I'm just saying that's how fans look at it. That's all.
I totally get the fan perspective because this is a program in which, like, Billy is right to seize on. They don't even have a Pop-Tart toaster trophy to show for it. It's a shame that this season worked out that way there. But Dan is irrefutable, like, from an optics perspective and from a counting stat perspective. It's just Miami fans think that you have to do some winning there.
But it's also not how sports works, right? Because, like, the best Heat player in franchise history is LeBron James. Right. But everyone will tell you it's Dwayne Wade when it was LeBron James.
He's the best.
Because
Dwayne's
he was only here.
Wow.
I had to. It's a distinction.
That's a distinction.
Best versus greatest, and that's the distinction here.
If you're a Canes fan, you're applying that to the quarterback.
LeBron's the greatest and the best. How about that?
Wow.
Wait, you said Michael Jordan was.
No, he's talking about the
Of
Heat.
all time,
Yeah.
talking Heat.
Well, the Heat did retire Jordan's number.
Carried away.
Jordan or Marino?
You're the greatest and the best.
Get out of here.
I thought if you're the greatest and the best, then you're the greatest and the best. I thought we had I thought that's what.
I think you guys are ignoring, and I know that the Rand Carthon thing was an on-ramp to this discussion, but you guys are ignoring the fact that this opens up the door for the Cleveland Browns to potentially acquire Cam Ward now with the number 2 overall.
All right, I want to do I happen to know. Let's do weekend observations.
Is that going to bring Mike back if that happens?
I think so. I think he's just announcing that. I think.
What if Deshaun's still on the roster, though?
Look.
I mean, he's never going to play again.
I
happen to know that.
He's going. They can't do anything. They need that.
They're just going to cut him.
Yeah.
He's going to pay. They're going to pay him all the money, and he's just going to go away.
Mike, don't throw that I happen to know around flippantly. I want to put some strength between
done.
your I happen to know.
He's done. Deshaun Watson's not throwing another pass for the Cleveland Browns.
Okay.
We
need to report.
I happen to know.
Okay, we're going to do weekend observations in a second. But
Why did I get so jacked up when I saw that the Titans fired Rand Carthon?
Mike
What is happening to me?
Mike,
you broke into programming.
I have, in our history as a show, I have delighted in any number of things. But one of them, to have some funny, poignant, artistic, and interesting thing spring from around all of the that Deshaun Watson was. Mike Ryan taking the moral stand of giving up his childhood allegiances over, that's a bridge too far, Cleveland Browns. I cannot support you if that's what your quarterback is going to be. He's now announcing that if they draft Cam Ward, he's back. And I think we have to allow it.
Hawkins gave me permission. And I will say, though, there is a strong chance that wherever Cam Ward went, I'd just support that team. Because right now, if I had to identify with any team, I identify with Baker Mayfield. Baker Mayfield is my team. I watch the Bucs more than anybody else because he's my guy. And Cam Ward, you're my guy too.
So Hawk is the gatekeeper on this?
He said I was allowed. So, and I think most people can understand this. And also, I think what buys me a lot is most people know that it wasn't BS with me. They know.
Well,
I wasn't secretly watching. I wasn't
they
freebasing.
They accused you of BS, and you proved to take the righteous stand. People can accuse you of virtue signaling, but you did signal virtue, and then you followed through with it because you gave up your allegiance. But, Billy, do you have any – one of the things that happens when Mike gets aggressively homerific around all things University of Miami is everyone has to run scared because you will get chewed up because you've been fighting the internet for years, and it's clearly not healthy. You were trying to get in on Mike and explain you didn't win the Pop-Tarts. Greatest UM quarterback ever, my ass.
Well, it was a pop shot.
I wasn't taking shots at him. He's not going to be remembered as an all-time great Hurricane.
And is it because he didn't win, or is it because he was the mercenary? Because I think there's a cost to that.
Combination. Yeah.
To Billy's point, like, is Brad Kaya remembered as an all-time great Miami Hurricane? Because if you look at the passing records, like, because of his longevity, he's up there. So it's not just records, but I think it's like the greatness.
No, but like Ken Dorsey's remembered very fondly, and he was not the greatest quarterback in UM history.
No, but
he keeps getting fired for some reason.
He had like 3 incredible seasons with Miami. It's a longevity thing too. It's a difficult. I don't really know how to judge him, but also being the number 1 overall pick at that position for Miami, that also doesn't happen all that often. Miami hasn't had a number 1 pick in a very long time.
Testaverde?
Was the last time?
Yeah.
I know how to judge Ken Dorsey and those college numbers that you romanticize. The running backs were Frank Gore, Willis McGahee, and Clinton Portis. That was the backfield. It was the 3
the wide receivers were Santana Moss, Reggie Wayne, and Andre Johnson.
Andre Johnson. Yes, that is correct. That is correct. Yes.
Every time
Yes,
it actually
it's
gets
funny.
said out
No,
loud,
it's
I
like
just
seeing-
can't believe it.
It's like seeing Tom Brady and 7-time Super Bowl champion. You're like, really?
Yeah, but, in his defense, he didn't have a Xavier Restrepo out there.
Right.
Who is the greatest receiver in program history?
All right,
according
enough
to
of
numbers?
that. Enough of that. Weekend observations. Enough.
Yeah, that read too.
It is time for Stugotz to share his game notes. No one in the media will tell you what happened better than my boy Stu.
Weekend observations presented by Miller Lite. Dan, last weekend, the sport gave us a little breather. But this weekend, hold your breath. A Final Four game Thursday night, another on Friday night, a pair of wild card games on Saturday, 3 on Sunday, and 1 on Monday. And Dan, just like that, make no mistake about it, football is back. Took a week off.
We gorged. You gorged over the holidays. It's disgusting. Chris Cody's still hungover. Chris Cody is gross.
Just gross. I just burped.
Just football. You are still 3 days. You're burping from football 4 days ago, aren't you? Put it on the poll, Juju. Are you burping from football 4 days ago?
Football's back. Huh? You excited for the weekend? I mean, Thursday through Monday.
How can football be back? It has never for 1 minute been gone this season.
A little breather last weekend. It does it once in a while.
Greedy.
Yeah.
They come in. NBA gives you 4 game-winning shots. NFL gives you 31-2 and nothing, and then dwarfs the numbers.
It wouldn't be Saturday of Super Wildcard Weekend if it didn't involve the Houston Texans.
It's true.
It's a staple.
It's true.
Gerard Mayo's worst loss was that win. Dan, you know what the B in Boise State stands for?
I do not.
Blah, blah, blah.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry to Boise State.
Speaking of Boise State, they still playing that blue turf? It's annoying. Enough. It's a gimmick. It's what you're known for. No one takes you seriously because you play on blue turf.
Is that true?
You want me to take you seriously? Play on some fresh green grass.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. So do you guys agree with that? The blue turf hurts Boise?
It's for sure what they're known for. It's like the first thing I think
First
of.
thing that comes to mind.
But it's not. I thought it was positive. It's negative?
It's their brand.
It's a gimmick.
I mean, yeah.
But do a lot of people criticize? I thought people just generally like that there's one team in the sport that has a different field than
Have you ever
everybody
seen
else.
Eastern Michigans? I always think I'm colorblind.
Yeah, it's weird.
I always think something happened to me.
Yeah. I want one person on that committee to admit to me that they were rooting for Arizona State. They were. They needed an upset. They didn't get it. Anyway.
What a great game, man.
It was the greatest Elite Eight game of all time.
Arizona State sneaky good this year.
How
Number
about
5.
Cam? Like he backed up all that talk. Like after you see what Genty did against Penn State, and he went up against. Do you know how elite Texas is at those goal line stands?
Yeah.
Every time their defense is needed to stand up, he's there, and they're
Ohio
there.
State is the only team that's better at that. Tough guy football on the goal line.
Texas is unreal, and Arizona State met power with power.
It's such a primitive form of football. How good are you on the goal line?
Dan, you know what the C in Cameron Scatabo stands for?
I do not.
Zonka, Dan. It stands for Zonka.
That's a good one, Stugotz. Yes, that was fun. How crushing is it to be Arizona State and know that this year? Oh yeah, we're good enough to beat anybody. We could have. Well, I have 3 losses, but we're good enough to beat anybody.
Is there anything more deflating than an underthrown ball that wasn't done on purpose still burning your ass? Because that kept happening to Texas. It was a little lucky.
Riley Leonard, put some pants on. Guy's playing in shorts. It's weird. Or pull up the socks. Georgia walk-on cornerback. Walk-on doesn't mean walk on the field when the ref is sprinting down the sideline. Hey, walk-on. Next time, walk off.
Wow. I was introduced to Nitro Tuggle of Georgia. Is that his real name? That is a great name for a wide receiver. That's not a nickname.
Nitro Tuggle?
Yes, Nitro.
Jesse Tuggle's son?
I don't know. All I saw was Nitro Tuggle, and I'm like, really? That's a great. What athlete would not want the name Nitro? What wide receiver wouldn't?
The
Sorry.
biggest loser from the Notre Dame and Georgia game was Brian Kelly. Going from Brian Kelly to Marcus Freeman is like getting broken up with and dating Miss America next. Notre Dame just didn't win the breakup. They dominated the breakup. And they did.
Put it on the poll.
It's the greatest breakup in the
LeBatard
history
Show.
of breakups. I mean,
Put it on the poll at Le Batard Show. Did Notre Dame dominate the breakup? It's going to be fairly hard to explain to your grandkids how it is that Northern Illinois beat the eventual national champion if Notre Dame only has one loss this season.
Nitro Tuggle's real name is Nitarion Tuggle.
Okay,
Which
unfortunate.
is pretty
I
good.
think that's even cooler.
That's kind of amazing.
I agree.
Where does the nitro come
Right.
from?
Dan, you know what the D in Dan Lanning stands for?
I do not.
It stands for do it in the playoffs. The committee made many mistakes, none bigger than allowing Oregon into the playoff. Dan Lanning, enough. I'm tired of that guy. Seriously. Greatest coach in America, my ass.
Put it on the poll, please, Juju. Dan Lanning, greatest coach in America, my ass. Yes or no?
You know what I like to say, Dan?
One word. Just one word.
If it walks like a duck, if it talks like a duck, it's not going to the college football Final Four.
It's funny. I do know a coach that won a Rose Bowl there.
Cleaning a golf ball on the course and proceeding to immediately drop it into the sand beneath you. Annoying. Why is there sand there? Sand is dirty. I'm cleaning. I'm in a cleaning zone and there's sand. Anyway, top 5 annoying things that could happen to you on a golf course.
Golf course problems are a segment. Look, Stugotz would like to spend his retirement. Just let me do 5 minutes of my golf course problems.
Going to do it right now. Number 5, leaving your club just off the green and having to make the drive of shame to go back and get it.
The worst.
Number 4, grabbing your 9 instead of your 6.
This is the show Stugotz wants to do in retirement, just complaining about golf stuff.
Number 3, forgetting or losing your lighter. Number 2, carts that stop when you've gone into restricted areas.
You have to sadly reverse out of it.
Yeah, you're stuck.
This is so country club Stugotz. It's unbelievable. Stugotz not looking in a mirror on this one is so good. Yeah, why don't I just get to drive wherever I want? Because you're someone who would just drive wherever you want. So they've got to stop the cart because you're the ape. You're the ape who would just drive through the sand trap and leave your marijuana and your joints there.
Yeah, number 1, high winds that prevent me from lighting my marijuana.
I knew that's where
You're going in circles trying to find where the wind's
Oh,
not
yeah,
going.
you're talked inside the cart. You're
in the little little cubby in the cart. You're
my
leaning
ass
forward.
crack is hanging out.
Stugotz is he's a golf course menace. A menace.
Where was I?
Losing your lighter. Can you imagine? Stugotz just wants to take a shortcut back to his weed. I'm going to drive through 7 sand traps at 100 miles an hour in my Jets golf cart. I don't want to be stopped.
Yeah. Congratulations to Times Square on New Year's Eve. The biggest ball drop in New York since Aaron Judge in the World Series.
It's a good joke.
Taylor's getting better at these. Good job, kid.
Chiefs resting their starters. Big mistake.
Really?
Yeah.
Wait a minute.
You gonna send me out of here? I got more to do.
I can't do this.
Can I do them from the penalty box?
Billy and Stugotz were trying yesterday to find out what the Kansas City Chiefs were before they were the Kansas City Chiefs. They were trying to figure out
Dallas Texans.
A loophole around Chiefs talk because Stugotz wants to be entitled to Chiefs talk. Do we lift the ban? Because he's questioning for 2 years and they've won both Super Bowls. And I mean, he's going to be right eventually.
Yeah, well.
Do we lift the ban to let him get it wrong again?
I think it's better to lift the ban so that he can fire off as many of these bad takes as possible so that when they win it, we have more ammunition than just the old takes.
Give him his own shovel.
He's got two all-time questioning. He questioned Mahomes as quarterback.
I questioned benching Alex Smith for Patrick Mahomes, and then last year I said this is the year to get him, and I said it again yesterday. This is the year to get him.
He's not been allowed to say that all season because his opinions on the Chiefs should be null and void. I don't know how you cheapen them more. They can't be more wrong. They're historically wrong opinions. Billy, do we lift it?
I mean, you have faith in this 15-1, 16-1 Chiefs team?
It's 15-2, and it's not that I have faith or I don't have faith. It's because Stugotz, he can't be trusted here. Can't be.
What do you mean? Hey, LeBron, got news for you. If the NFL wants Christmas, they'll take Christmas.
That's the truth.
The drug-sniffing dog at the airport always scares me.
Put it on the poll, Juju.
Even if I don't have drugs on me.
At Le Batard Show, does the drug-sniffing dog at the airport always scare you? It's because Stugotz is always doing something suspicious, and he doesn't trust that dog to not be able to smell the suspicious.
I just never know if I've taken all the weed out of my backpack.
I always assume that those are just bomb-sniffing dogs.
Yeah. They're drug-sniffing.
Okay.
Any dog that's sniffing scares me.
They're both. They're both.
What if the dog's having a bad day or just wants to be kind of like a dick?
If you're going to talk the talk, you better walk the walk. On Saturday, Mike Tomlin looked a lot colder than Zach Taylor. You know what the T in Tomlin stands for, Dan?
I do not.
Talk the talk, better walk the walk. Yeah.
I mean,
he looked old and he looked cold.
Yeah.
He did. It's over.
What?
We'll get to that in a minute.
Wait a minute. What is over?
Tomlin.
What?
It's overrated.
I mean, you do realize
we'll get to it.
They could beat the MVP again.
All they have to do in the playoffs is score more than 13 points, and they got Lamar right where they want him.
Mm-hmm. So,
and this is like the perfect setup for Tomlin.
What are you saying?
Steelers.
What are you saying?
I'm saying Mike Tomlin is overrated, and it's over.
You may regret this.
That's what I'm saying.
I hope this one ages like guac.
If I come to your house over the holidays and one of the things you're offering has powdered sugar on it, guess where it's going?
Yeah, your tummy.
Wow, you got it.
Yeah.
In my belly.
That's right, right in the belly. That's where it's going.
Lamar Jackson, do it in the postseason.
Yep.
The Lamar Jackson top 5 people who need to do it in the postseason list.
But don't do it this week because you embarrass me with my take.
Right, not this week. Is it all right? He's put the stakes out there, people. Stugotz likes to get all the takes out there so he can never be wrong, so he can say I got the one right even if I didn't get the other one right.
You have Tomlin and Russell Wilson beating Lamar Jackson? You have that happening?
Yeah, I've seen it.
I mean,
multiple times.
Wouldn't we argue that the team that Lamar least wants to see because they've seen him so often and they're the only one that can actually do anything against him is the Steelers?
That's right on.
It's over. Number 5. Dan Campbell. Nice little story. You make it to an NFC Championship game. You better start winning because if you don't start winning, Detroit's going to start getting mad at you.
Whoa, wait a minute. Already? We have not talked for 2 days about
number 5.
The signature victory at the end of the season,
yeah.
Which is the Lions doing that to the Vikings, which is exactly how Sam Darnold is going to get his season ended.
Mm-hmm. Number 4, Sam Darnold. A lot of people questioning whether or not he could do it in the postseason, Dan. He better do it in the postseason. Every time he loses, zeros come off that contract. How about that? Huh?
He's made himself a lot of money no matter
Well,
what.
he lost himself some money last week. He can win it back, though, this week. Number 3, Josh Allen. He has to.
JoshAllen.com is available. Just call Todd.
Number 2, Mike Tomlin. You're telling me Tomlin doesn't have an immense amount of pressure on him headed into the postseason?
Stugotz, he's had a winning season every season, and we're in agreement. The Steelers have exceeded all expectations this season, correct? No?
No.
No?
They ended the season poorly, actually. I mean.
Okay.
It's the trick.
Yeah.
You just had low expectations, and then wow.
Yeah. Right. You go 9-8 every year. The 10-7 stands out. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but this one's funny. I don't want to get too in the weeds on this, but Stugotz will give Burrow and Cincinnati credit forever for not getting to where Tomlin just got. Like Burrow's better off not playing playoff games. Like what you're doing is super unfair.
The winner of the Super Bowl should have to play the Bengals.
Put it on the poll, Juju, at Le Batard Show. Should the Super Bowl winner then have to play the Bengals for the Super Bowl win?
Who's hotter than the Bengals right now?
No, I mean,
Name a team.
No, it's the greatest. It's the Stugotz dream scenario of he can say whatever he wants because they don't actually have to play the games.
Yep, thank you.
It's wonderful.
Number 1, Patrick Mahomes.
What?
Dan, if you're chasing the all-time great, chasing the GOAT and Tom Brady, you have to do things that Brady has never done. What did Brady never do? Win 3 straight.
You think
what does Mahomes have a chance to do? Win 3 straight.
You think you know what?
If not now, when? I mean,
Stugotz major penalty, 5 minutes for talking about the Chiefs.
I mean, I'll finish these later, but someone's coming for him, Dan. I don't know when it's going to happen, but people are coming. Bryce Young. Bryce Young is coming.
I'm sorry.
Lamar wasn't on the list?
I'm sorry. You have to
No,
go.
he had naming rights to the list.
You have to go.
It's his list. I mean, it goes without saying.
I'm sorry to do this.
Before I go, here come the Leafs.
This episode of the Dan Le Batard Show with Stugotz is presented by DraftKings. DraftKings, the crown is yours.
I want to apologize to the audience yesterday because they want their hours and they want them every day, and they have made us a beast, Stugotz. Like, I am really proud and happy right now in a contract year that DraftKings has been the best sponsor we've ever had. We love DraftKings, got a great relationship with them, and also it's the content free agent spending spree time where everyone in streaming is trying to get into sports. It's just an aggressive business time. And so I have been wanting to feed the addiction to our audience, and they continue to allow us to make a great business out of what all of this is. And yesterday they expected 4 hours after 2 weeks off after football headed into the playoffs, and we can only give them 3 because the computers are melting. And it was very hot and the air conditioning wasn't working, and that's not winter problems that most media companies have, but they told me, don't do it in Miami, Dan, you're an idiot. Don't ever do it in Miami. You're a fool. And so the equipment was melting yesterday, and we didn't get the 4th hour out, but we did get you some Ron Magill best of, and I just wanted to apologize to the audience for that. We will give you your full ration of addiction today. I didn't get to the Golden Globes yesterday. There were 1,000 things I wanted to talk about that I never got the chance to talk about. Apple, $95 million settlement, because, we've been eavesdropping on people. Yeah. It's just the most common thing. We all know this now and accept it. Apple pays $95 million in a lawsuit to just be like, we listen to you. But we don't want to offend Apple because they're good business partners. Got to be careful who we offend in this age of free agency in a contract year.
Everyone's hiring.
Yeah.
If you order merchandise, don't criticize the company you order the merchandise for. They have a company starting.
Dangerous game.
Also, like the consequences for Apple doing things with our phone, like we're just so dependent on them. Remember when they had to essentially admit, whenever there was a new update that came out, it would kind of ruin your phone because you had to buy the new iPhone. We'd kind of make that happen. They got slapped on the wrist with a fine, and we kept buying the new iPhones anyways.
Too big to fail.
Those Chargers, though, I mean.
You mentioned Ron Magill. I saw Ron Magill over the break and had an uncomfortable moment.
Really?
In part because of Ron Magill. And it was really a bad behavior on my part that I should apologize for to the people that I offended, but I don't know how to, or if they're even going to remember it or experience it the same way. Like, do you guys ever have something and it played out differently in your head than you think that it was for other people? So, like, you feel guilt about something that other people are like, I don't really care about that at all. I had that with Ron Magill. So I went to the zoo. So I don't want to brag, annual pass holder at the zoo. No big deal. Yeah.
You're a regular.
Yeah, I can go whenever I damn well please. Because I have one of those family passes, right? Yeah. It's like $70. Honestly, I don't know why it's so cheap. I don't know why I'm saying this because now they're going to raise the price, but it's like cheaper to get the annual pass than it is to take your family for a day to the zoo. So if you have interest in going to the zoo and you have a family, get the annual pass.
You are a zoo supporter, and it is cheap.
Yeah, I
it
love
is a
the
bargain.
animals. I love the animals.
It's like the drink package on a cruise. It is.
Yeah, but that one seems more like a challenge. You get the drink package on a cruise, you're like, I'm gonna make money here, because like what you do is you start counting the drinks, you start adding it up, and then you convince yourself that you actually made money by drinking more.
Billy, you're a man of the people, and I believe that your aggressive support of the zoo is something that is fun for the whole family. You are a McGill supporter, but what happened with you and him?
You know what I saw before we get to that at the zoo? I saw they installed cameras where I believe the chimpanzees are, and I wanted to ask him about it whenever he comes back on, because before it wasn't there, and I went to the zoo previously, and one of the chimpanzees asked a man to throw him ice cream, so the man obliged and threw him ice cream. And then the chimpanzee ate said ice cream. After waving the man and saying, throw me the ice cream, he threw him the ice cream. And now there's cameras set up everywhere, and there's a recording in English and Spanish of Ron Magill telling people if they throw the chimpanzees anything, they will be arrested and prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. And it's on an endless loop. And I wonder, what's worse for the health of these chimpanzees, eating the occasional ice cream or having Ron Magill talk to them 24 hours a day, driving them crazy?
We need to ask Ron Magill this. You don't understand, okay? I don't know what's coming the next 4 years. None of us know what's coming the next 4 years, but I assure you it's not people who will be interested in protecting the zoo and Ron Magill.
I'm just doing my part.
And so Ron Magill is going to need our protection because I don't know how many of you remember the scene from a million years ago of Indiana Jones waving a torch at a bunch of snakes. But whatever is coming for government funding is going to make it hard for you to afford things like that precious, precious zoo that he cares about more than anybody because he cares about the animals more than anybody. But what was the awkward moment you had with our hero, Ron Magill?
Well, so as I mentioned, I have the annual pass so I can support Ron's vacations. And what happened was Ron was on a vacation to the Galapagos, which I think zoo people, I'm not exactly sure. So I go to the zoo, and when the people here who have kids know, sometimes you will see your kids' classmates out in the wild. And the kids are very excited when they see each other
Totally
out in the
awkward
wild.
for the parents.
Okay, so
here we go.
It's fun for the kids to see each other out in the wild. But, the kids, my eldest is 3. These are 3-year-olds. They see each other like, they're screaming each other's names. They go, they're excited. They run up to each other. So then you go and you say, like, hi to the parents. Hey, how's it going? How's the break? School's going to start again next week. You start the small talk. And then one of the parents says, hey, look, it's Ron Magill. And I was excited because you don't always see Ron Magill. Every time you go to the zoo, I'm going to see a giraffe, I'm going to see a zebra, I'll see a rhino. But you don't know if you're going to see Ron Magill.
Billy, I don't. You know this. Ron Magill's a giant star. Sábado Gigante is a show. Internationally, Ron Magill represents the fascination of how exotic Miami is to the world. He's a big star, and when people see him at the zoo, he's the biggest attraction.
He is. It's exciting to see him because you never know when you're going to see him or if you're going to see him because sometimes we see him, he's in his office, and you'll see pictures of him everywhere. You'll hear his voice telling people don't throw things at the chimpanzees. But this person says, oh, look, it's Ron Magill. And we're like, I got excited. So I was like, I got to go say hi to Ron Magill. So I kind of just take off in the middle of this conversation to go say hi to Ron Magill. I jog over because he was on a golf cart. So I had to almost jog over to the golf course. And I tap him on the shoulder like, hey, Ron. He's like, oh, hey, Billy, how's it going? You know how he talks. So he gets out of the thing. And I'm like, how are the Galapagos? Oh, it's amazing. Says all that, Ron Magill stuff. He's telling me about the Galapagos. He gets out of the golf cart. We're talking about it. So great to see you. Oh, I'm so sorry. There's so much construction going on right now at the zoo.
Mickey Mouse?
And I'm like, it's fine, Ron. Don't worry about it. We're here. We support you. We're here all the time. Anyways, it's not a big deal, right? So he gets out. I'm talking to him. He's talking to me. We're talking about the Galapagos, all that stuff.
Time to look cool.
Yeah. And the parents are there. And then I introduce them. I'm like, oh, here's my wife. And, my daughters. I don't know if you met my daughters. I don't know. And then I noticed that, at some point, the friends and the parents of the friends have left. And I was like, oh, should I have introduced them to Ron Magill? And should I have bailed in the middle of a conversation with them to say hi to Ron Magill? I felt very rude after the fact. And then they were gone, and we didn't see them the rest of the day. And the whole day I was full of regret of leaving in the middle of this conversation and then not introducing them to Ron Magill.
That's
and
a
then
good way to live life.
Talking to regret.
Yeah, just
it's the only way I know how.
Yeah,
overthinking.
Feeling it all day, feeling regret all day.
I was feeding the giraffes and I couldn't shake the feeling.
Yeah,
you should send your apology.
I thought about changing my daughter's schools. Honestly, I was like, I can't face these.
Just
people
tell
ever
your
again.
3-year-old the apology, and she'll relay the message.
No, and then the whole day she's like, oh, where? I'm just asking where her friend is, and I'm like, I don't know, but also they probably hate me now because I left very rudely.
A calamitous zoo visit that should have been wonderful.
Right.
It was a lovely day. Aside from that, let me ask you guys another question. Awkwardness aside, and how you would deal with that situation. So, the zoo has a split. We ended up going not in the same loop as them. I'm assuming because we didn't see them, but you then have to have you figure it out, right? Because if you go the same loop as your kids' friends, then you're in it all day with your kids' friends and their family, whatever. And it's not, you have to decide, do I want to ruin another family's day by including me in it? You know what I mean?
That's how you look at it.
No, like that's
a great way of putting it.
But
Right,
it is
right.
it is the thing, right? It's like, so
you want to ruin your day.
No,
Right.
it's their day. Like, they
Right.
didn't come to the zoo wanting to spend the day with my child and me, right? But I know how kids work. So do you go the way of the friend of the school, or do you go the opposite way? We didn't have that situation. We ended up just going the opposite way, but it's something that goes through my head.
Take a bathroom break really early on so that way you know
No,
you're
'cause
not
then
doing
everyone-
the same thing.
no.
Hey, we're gonna stop for food. You
have to
guys,
go
you
the
guys go
same
on ahead.
pace,
If
and
I
then-
look, Billy, I'm promising you here. I want to go wherever it is that the end of this takes us, and I also want to make a stop at whatever it is that happened to you at the rental car center this
Ugh,
morning.
Never go for the manager special.
But I just want to
You
tell you.
always go for the manager
All right,
special.
hold on, please. Everyone, settle down, okay?
Sorry.
Just for a
We're
second.
talking rental cars.
I will follow Billy wherever he wishes to go here, which is rare for me, okay? But Mike Ryan's going crazy.
He is.
Because for 10 minutes, he's had giant NFL news.
He just took a call.
Mike Ryan for 10 minutes has had giant NFL news.
Well, let's do that. I didn't know.
No.
Well, break the news. If not, someone else is going to break it.
He's just teasing it.
Nope. I want to hear the rest of what you have to say here.
That's
Please take us on this joyride.
No, that was it. We were just talking about the zoo. That's it. And then we were just having one of life's conundrums. If you run into one of your kids' friends in the wild, do you follow them or do you go the opposite path? The road less traveled. A literal fork in the road, if you will.
I always go the opposite way.
Same.
But why?
Because I don't like people.
Right.
Oh.
Yep, same here. What'd you choose?
Well, I didn't get to that choice because they
You never
left.
got to the fork in the road?
No, I didn't get to the fork in the road, but they had left while I had rudely started talking to Ron Magill, so I didn't have the decision to make. But I was thinking, had I reached this decision, would we have made an opposite decision, and then they'd be mad at me anyway, you know? It's just one of those things. You'll get it, Dan.
I almost don't want to have a positive interaction with a student's parents. Because
They're so young, though.
Right, but your kid wants to hang out with the other kids.
Yeah.
That's the conundrum.
I understand, but I just hope this isn't a positive experience for us because this can't be a thing.
Well, here's the thing, Stugotz. You've been through it. Your daughters are in college. One of his daughters, I don't know if you guys heard on God Bless Football yesterday, studying abroad in Australia.
Yeah.
Down under.
That's incredible.
Down under, yeah.
So I'm just
somehow closer than her home would have been down
for
here.
the record, because he just casually dropped this in. Stugotz is planning a trip to Australia at some point where he'll just disappear and he'll tell us, "I told you I was going to Australia." So I think he said it was for the Open, but I'm not 100% sure. So mark that on your
Open's in, like,
calendars
2
now.
weeks.
Just mark that on your calendars
What
now.
happened?
He already dropped in. I'm going to
What
the
happened
Open in
there?
Australia.
Australian Open, yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
so just
when in Rome.
keep an eye on that one.
They're playing the warm-up tourneys.
During the playoffs of the NFL.
Shout out to
Bowl.
Riley Opelka, friend of the show. He's back.
I had the same exact thing happen running into one of my daughter's friends at the mall over the holidays, but I did not go in for the shake hands and introduce. I kind of kept the distance. I let the kids talk, and I just I acknowledged the parents, but it was just kind of like a hello from a distance. I didn't want to do the thing of let's get into 10 minutes of small talk.
Right.
No, we did that. But I've been getting pep talk, and Stugotz, this is where you come in because you've been through this. My dad's been giving me pep talks about this, and he's like, you need to make friends with these people. You're going to be going to school with them the entirety of their time in school unless one of you leaves. And he keeps saying this. These are the families you're going to go to Disney World with. Wow. You need to start making these relationships now, and it's a lot of pressure.
Right. I can tell you I never went to Disney World with a single family. None of them. None of my kids' friends. We never went together. I coached their lacrosse team. That's how I got out of everything, and that's how I brought them all together, and that's how I spent time with the families, by not spending time with the family. Because I was on the sideline coaching the team. They were watching the games.
The Australian Open is in 5 days.
You want to go?
God bless football.
So are the
during
NFL
playoffs. It's gonna be,
All right, we'll find out together. We'll find out contract year. It's an amazing time to be a company in the
his
contract
defense,
year.
I didn't schedule this. I don't schedule the Australian Open. I don't schedule, studying abroad. I'm glad Emma's doing it. It's a big opportunity for her. She's having a blast. I want to go visit her. I mean, I'm not going to go. Dan, I'm going, post-March. I'm not going anytime soon. I mean, the Australian Open, it was a joke.
Post-March, though, but then it's their winter, and that's no fun. No. You want to go when it's your winter, and it's their summer.
I'm not doing winter. I might not see Emma. We'll see.
Number of things that I need to get to. You guys can't let me get out of here without saying more on that Fox Sports lawsuit. You guys know that is the click chum everyone loves. Everyone loves the garbage.
5 days, huh?
Watch me.
I want to get to a witty call, and I want to get to Dylan Gabriel possibly being stoned, okay?
If you want to talk rental cars, I'm still here.
Well,
for you whenever you
no,
want.
I do, and
That's what we got all excited about.
I want to get to.
Mike took a phone
Mike
call.
has breaking news, okay? And
against the spread.
Mike's got an I happen to know.
And you should promote the Dan Interviews Dan thing one more time.
Yeah. You should label it Dan versus Dan because people like fights.
Yeah.
Dan versus Dan.
Dan Interviews Dan is like, oh, God.
You know what? Let's change
no,
it.
Dan
let's
versus
change it.
Dan.
No, we can't change it.
Oh, sorry.
Posters have been printed.
Let's change it.
Stop coming up with good ideas after the fact. Should have brought you.
We'll
in
include
on
him on the front end.
Duke it out.
Dan like Dan Interviews Dan.
Dan versus. Well, it was two Dans walk into a bar.
Two Dans cutting it up, but we went Dan Interviews Dan.
So many good
Because
ideas.
The arrows go both ways.
Right.
There's two. They're both named Dan.
Dan
Caused
versus
all sorts
Dan
of
is
issues.
better. Dan versus.
Has
Dan
anyone
is
checked in
better.
with Dan? Which Dan?
How would you take out Dan Patrick in a fight?
Ticketweb.com for
I thought you were gonna say
Dan
tickle
versus
him.
Dan. Search Le Batard.
One more time, ticketweb.com. Just search Dan Le Batard. It's the first thing that comes up. We have a QR code right here on the screen right now. If you're watching us on Peacock or YouTube, that QR code, you hold your iPhone up to. I'm just explaining this to Stugotz and Greg Cody.
Thank you.
You open, and Dan. Patrick and Le Batard. You open up your camera, you wait till the link populates at the bottom, and it'll take you straight to there. But if you don't want to do that, if you're just listening to us on our podcast, monitor our socials because the link's out there too, or just go to ticketweb.com and search Dan Le Batard, and I promise you it's quick and easy.
So you're doing this Super Bowl week. You're doing it one night in New Orleans?
While you're in Australia, yes.
Wow.
Hopefully an American takes
It'll be me and Billy on God Bless Football.
You expecting this trip? Or
We will get you as a correspondent from the Australian Open.
What percentage do you give an American winning that? It's been a while.
It has.
American men's tennis is as good a position as it's been in a while.
Fritzy?
You guys know that the hockey canceled their All-Star game. They're just having 4 countries fight each other.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Chris and I are going. More on that.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Guys.
Roy's going to be mad.
When it comes to, oh my God.
He had green text.
When it comes to more on that in a second, I've got a lot that I have to get to, okay? And I don't think there's going to be time in the last 15 minutes because Mike has what we believe to be giant news.
I can tell you right now, wholeheartedly, who the number 1 pick of the NFL draft is going to be.
Wow.
But
Rental cars.
Wow is a curious word to choose.
But I can't get to it right now or against the spread because I have to know why it is that Billy tried to get a rental car today, chose the manager's surprise. Stugotz is sitting here saying you have to choose the manager's surprise, and I am led to believe that you regret, just from the look on your face and how you came in here today, that you regret choosing the manager's surprise.
Well, I got in a car accident. I'm fine. Thank you for asking. And anyway, so I rented a car for a couple of days, and I did the manager's surprise because it was the cheapest thing available. It was like, well, it's only cost $29 a day or whatever if you do the manager's surprise. And I'm like, I don't care what car I get. I'm just trying to get to work. And when I got the manager's surprise, boy, was I surprised. It's an electric car, which is fine. I don't have a problem with an electric car. But, like, the way that you have to return the car with the same amount of gas, I need to return it with the same amount of, like, kilowatts or whatever.
Huh.
So now I need to find a place to charge it.
A charging station?
And I need to figure out how many kilowatts an hour this thing needs to get in there before it is that I take it back to Hertz.
Right.
It's more work now. I would have rather just taken the car for $3 more that I could put gas because I can control that. Again, not against the electric vehicle. It's kind of cool, but this is now a job. I need to figure out how to fill this thing up and now sit at a bench somewhere while it like charges itself up. And then I need to play the game where I guess how long a kilowatt an hour goes and what is a kilowatt an hour versus a minute an hour. And it's one of these things. Is it metric? I don't know. I don't know how these things work. And I need to figure this out. Where's there a charging station? How much does it cost? How do I find one? What if I plug it in wrong? What if I get locked out of the car?
You went cheapest? You went the cheapest?
Of course.
And the cheapest resulted in an electric car, and you've never used one before, and it ended up being a disaster. It is a disaster.
Well, no, it's not a disaster.
How confusing is that brake?
Full disclosure, my wife has a hybrid, so I'm somewhat familiar with the electric. But this is all electric, and again, it's cool. But I don't the hours, kilowatt hours, this, where do I charge it? It's like, it's a whole thing. And
you don't know how to charge your car like a phone.
He doesn't know where to go to charge.
I don't know where to go to charge. Exactly.
Yes.
I could find a gas station on any corner. Now I need to download apps. I need to look at maps. I need to figure out where to go. I need to know, is this a good price for kilowatts? I don't know, but I don't want to be overcharged for a kilowatt. Then they ask me, well, if you just pay a fee and then you'll be covered. I'm like, no, not a chance. You're going to charge me $50 a kilowatt or something, and I'm not going to pay. I know a kilowatt. I don't know what it costs, but it's not $50 a kilowatt, so I'm not going to pay that.
There are charging stations, I think, at most gas stations, aren't there?
No, not at most gas stations.
Really?
I don't know, but I need to figure it out. I need to figure out how to charge it. And like you were saying, electric cars are not cheap, but I'm assuming no one is choosing to rent them, and that's why they're the manager's surprise. I've been surprised twice out of the last 3 times that I rented a car. One time was with a Chevy Bolt EV, which is this one, a little tiny car that you plug in. The other time was a 15-passenger van in Kansas City, which was that one was a pleasant surprise. But I knew where to fill that thing up if I had to. It's just always a surprise, and I'm starting to learn you don't like the surprise every time.
That van was a beauty, man.
Put it on the poll at LeBatard Show. It sounds like great fun to me. I'll go with the manager's surprise. Put it on the poll at LeBatard Show. Will you choose the manager's surprise every time? Are you expecting the manager's surprise at the rental car place to be the cheapest thing? Because I'm with Stugotz. Delight me. Surprise me with my purchase, but it sounds like a disaster. All right, listen to me. If we don't get to Mike's news, we're going to have a problem here because everybody needs the NFL news. Now, unfortunately, we're in a contract here and we've got a sponsored segment here. So to bring maximum attention to that, we got to tell people that we're doing against the spread here. But Mike's news is big. He's got an I happen to know that's bigger than most I happen to know. So, give me our sponsored segment first, please.
That's right. It's time for
Against the
Spread. And it's presented by DraftKings. DraftKings, the crown is yours. Jeremy, what do you got?
Guys, I've never been allowed to give this advice until the Florida Panthers were no longer a part of my regional sports network. So now I can tell you to bet on the Panthers. Tomorrow night, stay up for a East Coast 10 o'clock start, West Coast game.
That was really
It was
confusing.
terrible. I'm normally good at broadcasting, but I got confused because they're not on our regional sports network anymore.
Jeremy.
Thank you.
I have 2 now.
Major
You
penalty,
guys know
5
that?
minutes for stumbling.
I have 2 Emmys.
You have 2 minutes.
Now, is it a personal one or an ensemble?
It says my name.
You didn't answer
Part
the
of a
question.
cast.
Get out of here. Someone else will make the bet.
What was his pick? I don't even
It's
know.
the
who they're
Panthers.
playing.
Minus 1.5
Get
against
out
the
of
Utah
here.
Hockey Club
Get
tomorrow
out of
night
here.
against the spread.
Spread, just say that.
That's
Jesus
a nationally televised
Christ,
game.
used 4 words one time.
Mike, what do you got?
I'm going to take Texas.
Against
the
spread.
Do it. Thank you. Thank you.
Well, I would like to give some insight.
Could be any
I
Texas,
just really
too.
like. Well, I have to give some gambling insight. Look, Ohio State's feeling themselves right now, but they should do this. They have all the talent in the world. They're the best team. I still don't think we've seen the best of Texas. I think Texas can hang inside that number, particularly because I really like that defensive line for Texas, and that's why I'm taking them against the spread.
Thank you. I don't mind a lot of words if they're going to be informational, but him coming
Start
in.
time.
Time zone was important.
He
But I think it's also a 9 o'clock.
It might just be Jeremy,
But
too.
No, listen. I'm going to start doing employee reviews around here.
He's
When
a
I-
trigger.
And when I
He's
sit,
a good
when
kid.
I sit, yes, he's a good kid.
And an Emmy winner.
Yeah, and an Emmy winner.
2 times.
Okay, yes.
Part of the cast.
Yes, agreed.
His name's on the trophy, though.
Agreed. He's a broadcasting prodigy. But here, let me play for you some witty sound because the standard.
Prodigy.
Wait a minute.
This dude was prodigious.
You've gone too far.
Look, listen to me, Stugotz. Jeremy Taché has some of the best jobs locally in sports broadcasting, and he's a child, okay?
There are times that I look at him, I'm like, why do you subject yourself to this?
Yeah.
You're good at what you do.
Yes, he is. Yes, he is. But he likes to do a little tap dance before getting in and giving the information in that schmarmy broadcasting way
you
that
have
is
an
the antithesis of everything we want to do
You don't
around
have an
here.
Emmy.
The website for his event says he does.
What? You're not the Emmy winner. Maybe that's the other Dan, because it's Dan interviews Dan.
Dan versus Dan.
Dan versus Dan.
Well, if the competition is win an Emmy, it ain't Le Batard.
That is correct. I've never won any of the broadcasting awards.
That's why you're so upset with Jeremy.
No.
You won a New Times,
New Times Best Show.
Green doesn't
Best
look good on you,
AM
Dan.
afternoon show.
and you're perennial winner for
Except
best
olive
mistake.
green.
Listen to me. When it comes to prodigious talent birthed by our show, Chris Whittingham came onto the scene here when he was about 15 or 16 years old. And so, Mike, I'm asking you genuinely how you feel about this call, because Whitty is living his dreams as a young broadcaster. He's no Noah Eagle. Know that. But in terms of what we've had in South Florida, there's never been a broadcasting sports prodigy like Chris Whittingham. So let me play for the people this call, which is Whittingham arriving at his dreams and getting to voice them.
It's turned in! Tammy Abraham is the Super Cup hero! From 2-0 down, Milan! A famous victory in the Derby della Madonnina!
That's showing off.
Sergio Conceição his first trophy at the club after just 2 games!
That's accent by Whittingham.
He's so good, though.
And just isolating it, he did great the entire match. It's the Italian Super Cup, and it's Inter Milan versus AC Milan, arguably the biggest rivalry in Italy. And the game was amazing. There were great chances, end to end. Pulisic, you knew he would show up for January 6th. He absolutely killed it. And it was an amazing game. And for him to have that crescendo, like an at-the-death winner, and lay out for that moment after a huge monumental 2-0, most dangerous lead in sports, monumental comeback and a huge moment for that club. He is so great at what he does. He's now the lead voice over at Paramount for Serie A. And playing that back literally warmed my heart. That was incredible by him. He's so good. So good.
He's no Noah Eagle. But he'll keep trying, and Jeremy will keep trying. And hopefully, Jeremy will be playing a xylophone while calling Heat games in 3 years.
He hoisted babies, if you remember.
Right, man, but he wants to be up. He wants to be a theater kid.
You very much don't like him. It's obvious.
Yeah. It's okay. Just say it, dude.
It's okay.
You'll feel better. He'll feel better. I mean,
what do you mean?
Everyone feels better.
Wait a minute.
It'll be less tense.
The audience agrees.
Yeah. Just say what you want to
With
say.
Dan.
The audience knows.
Prodigy.
What I would like for Jeremy,
Making up for some stuff there. I mean, come on.
is for Jeremy to realize in some instances that he doesn't know everything.
Oh.
Well,
I do.
That's right.
I've just learned from you guys.
What you need
so
to
you know,
that's
you
right.
don't, because I do.
That's
Right.
correct.
And because Dan does.
That Jeremy, that's what we're saying.
I'm learning in real time.
Jeremy, what we're saying is you don't get to be the guy who knows everything, because I am.
Even if I know.
Yes.
Doesn't
correct.
matter.
You don't know.
Okay, got
I
it.
think you know, but you have no idea.
So even if I know.
What don't you understand?
I get it. No, I know. Now I
Do
know.
you understand the
strong.
gig?
Yeah, I get it.
The gig is you can't know everything if I knew.
So if I know, I just got to give it to you so that you can know.
Precisely.
That's
I got
what
it.
producers
All right.
do.
I got it. I mean, I wasn't hired as any specific role. I don't even think I've ever signed a piece of paper that says I work here. But I'll be a producer. Sure.
Make him look like the guy who knows, not yourself.
Did the air just
Got
cut
it.
off?
I
don't know
think
what
I
happened.
get what's
did
going
cut off.
on here.
I'm sweating.
The whole prodigy thing. Dan's trying to talk him up so someone comes in and scoops him away so Dan doesn't have to deal
Get
with
him
it.
out of here.
Yeah.
He's doing the opposite of Riley. He's trying to
Yeah.
build up my trade values.
You're the
He's
free
like,
agent.
Look at Whitty.
He keeps
Look what we
referring to.
developed. The next one's here.
Got
Just take
it.
him from us.
Oh, okay. Now I understand.
I'm passive aggressive that way. Been in all my relationships my entire
You
life.
and Boss and Connor.
I'm sure me and Barstool will get along great.
Mike, what's the news? What's the news? Because
Okay,
you're locking this down. You're saying this is so because people are going to eat this up. They're going to eat this up.
This is his biggest report in his early reporting
No,
career.
no,
is
no,
it
I
not?
wish I lived in a DraftKings safe
Oh,
because
the
I'd
messy
lock in
one.
Shedeur
Yeah.
Sanders. You're number one.
No, this was Messi is the biggest story he's ever broken.
Yeah, it
but
was big.
this one in America, this one will create more stir.
So we know the breaking news from today. The Titans have parted ways with Rand Carthon. Rand Carthon, I happen to know, liked Cam Ward. The head of scouting was a former Miami Hurricane, A.J. Highsmith, related to Alonzo Highsmith. And Cam Ward, as of right now even, is still the favorite to go number one. However, the news of this broke, and Deion Sanders took to Twitter and responded, quote, tweet, "Wow." Now, if you also go back into Deion Sanders' Twitter, do you have it open? I know you were looking at it before. Who has Deion Sanders been publicly supporting to get a job for general manager this entire offseason to the point that it's been a little odd? It's been Lou Riddick.
Wow.
Very flattering tweets about him. So now there's this job opening. Early consensus is Lou Riddick is in the mix for this job. We know that Deion Sanders loves Lou Riddick, has been publicly endorsing him, has not been endorsing other GM candidates because why? Because he knows if Lou Riddick gets that job that is now open in Tennessee, his son Shedeur Sanders goes number 1 to Lou Riddick's team. That is what I would be banking on because I happen to know.
Wow.
Now, what does this mean for the number 2 spot? That falls now to the Cleveland Browns. And if we go down this path where Lou Riddick goes to the Titans and we expect Shedeur Sanders to go to Tennessee as well, Cleveland is on the clock. Cam Ward is there.
Wow.
I might be coming home.
Wow.
Mike's coming home. Coming home.
Deion Sanders is saying,
wow.
That's so good.
Wow.
Right.
all knowledge and class is what he's saying of Louis Riddick. So what you're basically saying on top of who is going to be number 1 and number 2, if Louis Riddick gets that job, Deion Sanders is going to feel like he's everyone's boss in both sports.
Well, they also have a head coach opening. Well, not yet, but what if the GM doesn't like the head coach? Like, it could mean for Deion Sanders, too. I'm not fantasy booking that, but we know that there is a GM candidate that Deion Sanders has publicly endorsed in strange ways. He's not doing this for other people. So, scratch my back, scratch yours. Tennessee, all of a sudden, I have faith in this place as a location for my son. And also, we know that the previous regime probably had Cam Ward, I happen to know, probably had Cam Ward rated ahead of Shedeur Sanders.
Wow.
But I can't say that
Wow.
for Lou Riddick, who'd bring an entirely different staff, a staff possibly devoid of Miami Hurricanes alumni.
That one's super
This is
interesting.
juicy, man.
But I think the juiciest part of that, I don't know, you tell me if you think there's something juicier than this part of it. If Deion Sanders is wanting to run this sport the way that he ran that sport, Louis Riddick doesn't have any kind of pedigree that wouldn't make it so that Deion Sanders is now in business with Louis Riddick on protecting the career of his son, because Deion Sanders is going to run this thing with Louis Riddick and can coach Colorado while he's doing it or not, because never mind the coaching parts of it, he's just getting into business with Louis Riddick at the top of pro football after, doing everything he had to do to get there. That one's pretty, man, what's better than that one?
He's becoming partners with Louis Riddick to ensure what he thinks will give his son the best chance of success in the NFL, which is a very cool thing. I do wonder if Deion wants to coach in the NFL.
Well, the mind certainly wanders over there, but let's keep our eye on the ball here, which is certainly Cam Ward to the Browns at number 2.
Mike's coming home. Look at him. Look at him. Bye, Jew.
Hi, Stugotz.
I was talking to you, Stugotz.
I did not say that.
Couple of Jews.
Juju, it is always nice seeing you. Thank you for stopping by today. I wanted to ask you something because Mike Ryan just got done talking about something that loops you in, because I saw that you were working your NFL networking sources this weekend with the Tennessee Titans, and we're reporting as a show, it sounded like, that we know everything that's about to happen in the NFL and that Louis Riddick and Deion Sanders are about to take over the Titans. So what can you report from this weekend of insider reporting all around the Titans? Because I saw that you're vying to become an NFL insider.
Yes, sir. And due to, I protect my sources, so this is all I would say.
Oh, wow. Okay, so you're doing it right now. You're saying Cam Ward. I don't think that's the same report that Mike Ryan had, though. Mike Ryan's report.
He did. Mike had.
No, that's. I'm confirming Mike Ryan's
he had
report.
Shedeur going.
If you out there.
Yeah.
Okay, so you guys, you are, for those that weren't watching on video, what is this world you live in where you have all of these things just sitting around like you've got?
He lifted up a Browns logo and a UM jersey. That's what he did for the audio audience.
But how much stuff
Yes,
do you
sir.
have there? What is the general worth of a collection that is formidable of yours?
way too much to brag about. It's not. Children out there, save your money. Buy important things like land, property, stocks. Don't be like me and waste all your money on memorabilia. Let me be the example, because it gets you nothing. You just have a house full of stuff.
Well, it's a lot of stuff, and you look better than anyone else's Zoom. Did you see me walking around on Sunday, my apartment? Well, anyways, let's get to today's show because, Chris Cody, I never got to the Fox Sports lawsuit. I'm not going to put that here now with Juju. These are good vibes, so I'll have to get to that tomorrow. But what did we screw up today? What did we get right? The last couple of days have been a frenzy because a lot of people have been wanting to talk after 2 weeks off.
Yes, sir. Today, I think salute to the audience. They were in a roar about this. The coaching carousel may need some WD-40 around the ankles.
Dude, my knees hurt.
You see what I'm saying? Because Dan, combined with your knees not being what they used to be, you give a little grunt every time you get out the chair. And for some reason, you had your eyes closed tight and you was biting your lips as well. So I'm like, yeah. Somebody, WD-40, my boys, a carousel for him, please. Chris had a perfect carousel. Out of all carousels, he would look at my boy. Look at him. Killing him.
Yeah, well, Juju, I don't know if you saw what happened there, but Chris Cody did crush the carousel, but no one else was participating. Like, everyone, Stugotz.
At one point,
Stugotz just muttered under me, my body hurts. Like, nobody else. It was the most bored carousel. And so I feel as a leader that me and Chris have to lead everybody. And all I got was like Mike Ryan lifted a leg and farted a couple of times. It was such a bored effort from everyone involved.
I think we might need to get everybody some carousel classes, like judo, just some carousel after the recording every day, bro.
Juju, I'm gonna let people see behind the scenes. Do you know how pathetic I found myself as founder of the company, trying to motivate someone other than Chris Cody? Can you participate in this dumb fucking carousel? We're doing carousel music. Can we participate? So what do? I lend my knees to the cause, and no one else wants to do it. And now you're here to criticize me for grunting.
Dan probably does that like twice a year, where it's just a note for the room. Usually the room picks up on stuff. Dan had to be like, carousel, everyone.
This little Dan right here, he was like it. Jesus.
But no, it's because I was hiding my repressions under clenched teeth that I have to tell a group of adults who have worked for a long time with us that they have to do the carousel. Don't be bored around the carousel.
And then Billy did a board carousel.
He didn't do shit. Billy didn't do shit. He wasn't listening. He didn't try.
He got the free carousel. Don't even cost a quarter. Just hop on, man. Going back to yesterday's show, salute to my brother David Sampson. But those glasses, sir, the Elton John glasses, however, they were tamed. The first set of glasses, I don't know if that was Bono glasses or
George Michael. They're not any good. No, they were bad.
I wouldn't be a good friend to David Sampson if I don't let him know, hey, man, that might not be the best option for you to just pull out on strangers. You know what I'm saying? Let that be one of the things you just wear around friends. You feel me? Not the national broadcast either. Those look a little bit ... I don't know.
No, you're right. You try not to be judgmental, but no, you got him. We do not, man. We don't have a lot of style around here.
It's okay though. He don't need it because I'm sure the glasses cost what, like $4 billion.
Yeah,
just keep them in the house, bit bro.
Those glasses costing whatever it is they cost make David Sampson unlikable. I mean, they do.
And he said
and a few other things.
He said he would have kept people from not getting their incentives yesterday.
Yeah, that too.
Come on, Dave. Dang, loosen up, bro. Get well soon also for the bit toe. Over the Christmas break, I realized something that I wanted to bring and try it out to you guys. Moving forward, I am a comedian. My job title is comedian. Because over the break, I realized that comedians get to really just say whatever they want to say and don't get backlash for it at all. So moving forward, as my career, I'm a comedian. So if I say anything out of bounds, I was just joking. You dig me? So yes, comedian.
I want to do that too. I'm a comedian too.
You guys saw Whitney Cummings on New Year's? Is that what this was?
No, who is Whitney Cummings?
Oh, boy. Go look at the things she said on New Year's Eve and got away with on CNN. It was unbelievable. Behind comedian. It's great. Juju, you win on this one.
Yes, sir. Everybody be getting over it, and salute. So I'm now a comedian as well. Over the break, I realized NFL, I know the playoffs are very valuable and we have the best rules for the playoffs, but I had to see and sit back and watch Michael Penix not get a chance in overtime the other night against Jalen Daniels in a very pivotal game for the Falcons. And so I think that we should change those overtime rules in the regular season. We got to give both offenses a chance, bro, at least a chance. And maybe some kind of super rule where if you go for 2 as well as score a touchdown, now game over. But you just can't have somebody win the game because they call tails.
A super rule. A super rule.
Yes, sir. That's just my suggestion to my
That's
brother.
a good. No,
and
this is the look. I don't think people understand. This trough, everyone's firing off a lot of sports takes. It is hard to get off sports takes than somebody else isn't already having. So Juju consistently, you've been baking that one you've been baking the super rule for about 10 days now.
Yes, sir, bro. I was watching Michael Penix Jr. in a place full of Atlanta ATLians. That's what they call them. Brother, you should have seen the violence that ensued after that overtime was over outside the club. It was just not good. So, Roger Goodell, you can step in front of that. You did me. Get everybody a chance, man. Also, you know how the defenders get like Trevor Lawrence this year. The brother Al Shair had got a big hit on him and he got suspended for 3 games. Let's get defenders some incentives for pulling up. Like, hey, bro, I saw you could have knocked brother head off when you pulled off $10,000. Like, some kind of incentive for pulling up and not killing or crushing the quarterback.
Maybe incentive, maybe end of the year bonuses for people that go an entire season without those type of penalties or something. I like this.
Right. Just same way they got the camera, the eye in the sky that can locate concussion symptoms. Hey, locate the radius of that defender that could have knocked the block off.
I love that. I love that. Instead of the Mike Evans, here's $3 million for not concussing Tua and making the sports media talk for a week about our violence problem.
Love it.
Do you have anything else for us, Juju? Does the stat of the day competition appeal to you? Because I was talking during the break with people, we should have a stat of the year at the end of the year where we've crowned a statistic for the year. Everyone loves those easy year-end shows. If we were to do a competition all year, I think people might enjoy a stat of the day. Should we be doing that? Was there any fanfare for that on the internet?
Oh yeah, the people liked it. Your stat versus Mike's and Jeremy's. That was actually a good moment on the YouTube today. So I think that's a great idea. It'll make us do more work instead of sitting home on our behinds watching these games. Maybe we can jot down some notes and want to bring in some good juice for the show. You dig? So I think it's a great idea.
We have an idea for how to execute this, Dan, which is that we're going to keep track of every time somebody brings in a stat that they have for stat of the day. And at the end of each month, we will decide what our leader in the clubhouse is at the end of that month. It will then get thrown into a pool. And when we get to the end of the show in December, before we take our break before Christmas,
we'll have 12 winners.
We will have
12 monthly winners. And guess what we put it into? A college football style stat playoff.
And
That's a good idea, Dan. That's a great idea.
It's going to be great. I can't wait.
Great idea.
We're going to be smart.
Great idea. And before we get out of here, I want to also bring attention to 2 things. Number 1, Tweaker, Jello Ball right now, Apple iTunes, go get it right now. He shocked the world. LeVar Ball was right. All of his sons are literally superstars and ultra talented. Salute to that brother. Also, just before we get out of here, Izzy's gift was great to you, Dan. You're such a great friend of wearing that hat this entire episode. But the powder on Stugotz's hat has gotten real powdery.
Yeah, he's
lately.
disgusting. Yeah.
I'm not sure what that is. So I think
It's a sweat
Izzy's
stain.
gift. Right.
Yeah.
You almost had it right.
I give this to him. You think I should just give it to him? That's a good idea, actually. Yeah, his hat is disgusting. It's a hygiene problem. The norovirus was on. It's on that. It's ground zero for that. Like
it's like anthrax-ish right here.
It's a throwback.
Yeah, so if you send my brother Stugotz a hat if you out there.
All right. Good seeing you, Jew. I was talking to Stugotz.